Hello everybody, have a bit of a different video for you today. This is a completely uncut, basically 2-hour conversation with Paul and Duncan from Hopoo Games. That's Paul the Goat, obviously, and Hopoo is Duncan. It's kind of like an interview, but it's pretty laid back. But I do ask some hard-hitting questions, quote unquote, with tons of stuff to do with Risk of Rain 2, Hopoo Games, the guys behind Hopoo Games, and just some random game questions in general. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. And real quick, my webcam was a little messed up in the beginning of this, so for the first 5 minutes or so, you won't see my webcam, but eventually it does kick back in.
There was like a time where I spent a month in Japan, just like with my mom, just to do it, just for fun. And at the time, I mean, I just like making games. So it was like a prototype.
Yeah.
There was a 2D prototype for Risk 2.
Yeah.
We just knew we wanted to do something different. That prototype was, it's like the thing that made that one different was that it was a different direction for the story, but it was that the humans came and colonized the planet. So you play as the monsters. Trying to escape or something. So you play as a Lemurian.
That's sweet.
Yeah, so I mean, it didn't launch, but like there's files somewhere. I'm sure I could find it.
Dropbox or something.
Yeah, of like the original source for that. But the thing that we really wanted to do, or at least like I personally prioritized, was that for a lot of fan art for Risk 1, they always like drew attachments on the characters. So like all of the items kind of showing up on their body.
Yeah.
And in the original game that didn't happen. So that was something I tried to support in the 2D prototype, and that was really challenging. And in 3D, it's just much easier to do that. I kind of like this like body attachment stuff. Right. So I contacted Gore, so that's Jeff. I knew him from like a game development community. And so I just kind of knew he was like a smart dude. And so we made a 2.5D prototype. So like from the side, but with 3D assets. And then by the time we got that working, like our mind was like, oh, it's so close to being like fully 3D already. Right? Like the models are 3D, they're made in 3D. What if we just tried like a 3D thing?
It was like a joke at first. Like Duncan was making the models and I was like, you know, if you like move the camera, it's like 3D. By Friday, and then by Monday, I was like, so the game, like, it's gonna be 3D, and everyone's like, oh, that's funny, like that, you know, and it actually was, because I mean, Duncan had never done like modeling or all this stuff, so it's definitely new. But I think we didn't want to do the same thing twice. Like Risk of Rain 1 was like really successful, really cool, fun to work on, but the prototype and even like designing things in that same 2D space wasn't as exciting. So I think when we kind of realized it could potentially be 3D, we're like, all right, this is like big.
Yeah, we gotta try this out at least. That's awesome. Actually, so what I'm getting at is what I picked up on was it came mostly from, you know, you wanted to do a sequel obviously, but then the fan suggestions like, hey, we want to see the character. I mean, that's a pretty big thing in like any RPG related game, you know, the character progression, the visual progression. And then it just exploded off of that. That's cool. One thing leads to another.
It wasn't really from like people telling us. It was just kind of what I saw in fan art that I just thought was like, oh, that'd be cool if you could do that.
Oh. The commando like super messed up with like needles in it.
Yeah. or like the Markin has like 100 glasses or whatever.
Yeah, I love that.
Like, oh, that'd be cool if we could do that.
Actually do that. Have you seen the mod? I'm sure you have the actual like silly items mod where you can literally make it like that.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Your webcam isn't working.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to hold on. How often do you guys clean out your computer? I'm assuming you work on desktops. For like
the end of your question cut out.
Oh, my bad.
Because you unplugged your mic.
How often do you guys like turn on clean out your computers? Do you work on desktops or do you have laptops mainly?
Desktops.
You clean them out like the dust and stuff? I'm just curious.
Honestly, no.
No.
I haven't cleaned them out like ever since I got it.
Hey, we did it. There
we go.
That's a weird, that's a weird angle, dude. Because I have it flipped on my stream. That's right.
That's great.
Nice to see you guys finally. What's up? I'm reading. I have a little notepad here. I didn't ask my community for any questions. I kind of forgot.
And like yesterday, I ended up doing like a bit of a impromptu Q&A, and there was like a lot of interest for that.
Yeah.
So I think we'll probably do like an actual Q&A at some point.
Sure.
I don't know. We haven't organized anything yet, but we'll kind of let you know about that.
Oh, dude,
that would be through your stream, or if it would just be like through like Reddit or something.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be through me at all. I would just love to see like an official thing from you guys. That's awesome. Are you guys cool with me recording this, by the way? Are you cool with me putting up as like a unofficial one? All right, sweet.
Yeah, I think so.
Because again, there's probably...
We'll let you know if it's like, wait, don't put that in there.
Wait, edit that part out. Edit that part out. Edit that part out. So you guys already kind of answered this, but my follow-up to the when did the Risk Rain 2 idea first occur was the conception around the 3D element or desire to flesh out the first game more or something else entirely? And you pretty much answered this. Mainly, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could like see some visual progression pretty much? So you pretty much already answered that.
From that first, yeah.
That's
so
pretty
it's like
sweet.
a minor thing, but I mean, it kind of had momentum of its own.
That's the cool thing, though. Like it was seemingly, such a small little tiny idea, and then, cascades into something entirely different. I'm sure that's one of the benefits. You guys can speak to this way more, obviously, because you have the actual experience of like indie development, where you can just take like one little tiny idea and then just go for it.
Yeah, we didn't have to like pitch, anyone the idea or convince anyone other than ourselves. It was like, this sounds exciting, and usually things that are exciting to us like turn out the best. So I think we were pretty nervous at first too. I think we worked on that once we realized it was going to be 3D. I think it was like 8 months or 6 or almost like a year before we even like hinted at it or told anyone or showed any of our friends. Like it was like pretty, people loved Risk Rain 1 and they wanted more of it. And if we're going to flip it and switch to like 3D.
Yeah, you were worried about the...
Like, trust us. So I think that was the biggest like that. Day one, we just decided like, all right, it's not going to get any easier. Let's just put out this blog post of like, hey, we're making Risk Rain 2. It's going to be in 3D. Trust us. It like is good. Like, that's weird, but okay, we'll trust.
Yeah, I remember. Was the initial reveal at PAX? Guys, I remember watching I don't know how to pronounce his name. Rayquaza. I know it's a Pokemon. I don't play Pokemon, so I don't know. Rayquaza. I remember watching that video. Was that the first time you had shown it? Was it PAX 2018, 2017?
So that was the first playable. You could play it in person. We had like a Tumblr where we'd post just like development stuff in general.
Yeah.
And that's when we first showed like GIFs of Risk 2, and it was pretty early. But like the PAX thing was supposed to be kind of like our big announcement thing.
Yeah.
Right. I would say that also like the transition to 3D was really hard for me because I had no background for art, and so like I found it pretty frustrating.
Wait! You have no background? Aren't you the lead artist?
Yes, but I am self-taught.
Oh wow!
Just so like the first because when we showed it at PAX, we probably like a year and a half into development or something. I would say probably like the first year and 4 months, I was not happy with like the way it was looking, just because I was so inexperienced.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty frustrating.
What, so for Risk Rain 1, was it like asset flips, or how did you just pixel art's way easier? It's just like, drawing in a few pixels here and there?
I had done pixel art for a few years before.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So that was something I was familiar with. And like, I messed with Blender when I was like a kid, like tutorials.
Yeah.
And that was like the last time I ever did 3D stuff. And I also didn't know anything about like Unity or shaders or like all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
So it was like really technical too. So it was really challenging.
So within about a year and a half, you not mastered it, but you got it to a point where you could actually implement it in a game.
It was like, I was finally like proud of it. Like right when we actually started showing like pictures, sort of like the first gifts were kind of like kind of crappy. But I remember the first pictures we released on our Tumblr of, God, what's it called? Distant Roost. That was like when I was like starting to finally feel proud about like the things I could show, and I was like, oh, it's not looking too bad anymore.
Yeah.
And now obviously I hate that map because it's like so old
compared to the other ones.
But yeah.
That's awesome. Holy crap. Because I think for a lot of people, they would say the art at the very least is iconic. It's easily recognizable. Some people call it, basic, but I love the art style. Personally, I love the art style. But and now it makes sense. Now we have the context as to why it looks the way it does. I love that art style. Honestly, I think you did a great job, dude. Fantastic.
Yeah, it was also just trying to tie it back to Risk 1 was also a challenge.
Yeah.
Just because that was obviously pixel art and like low fidelity. And trying to sort of translate that was challenging as well.
Yeah.
If I did again, I could probably do a bit better. But I mean, I think it's like, it's fine, right?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think if we had like years and years to perfect it, the game would probably like never come out. So it's like this like just right when Duncan was happy with it, we're like, all right, we got to show it off and see if this is like viable. And people loved it. And it's only getting better. I mean, the whole like first year and a half was like figuring out the game, how it felt, making a 3D game, third person game. and learning how to do like all the art and all this stuff. So it's like very, laddered.
Also learning how to do a sequel too. It was hard because we didn't have a ton of references for like outside of like like Mario 64. It's not really relevant. In terms of like taking a pixel game and seeing how you could translate it to 3D. So I think when we showed it at PAX, and everyone was like, "Oh, this feels exactly like Risk 1." Like everybody said that, and that's when we knew like that's the only moment where like, "Oh, maybe this isn't terrible."
Yep.
Because like we had no idea, like is this like just trash? Because we've been playing it for so long just by ourselves.
So it was like, I think it's pretty fun. Duncan was like, I think it's pretty fun.
It's like,
Yeah, I remember a conversation we had pretty early, Paul. You said you essentially your idea for the game was develop something you guys wanted to play yourselves, and I understand you guys play quite a bit of the game, and maybe not now because you're so busy, but you guys have played a lot of Risk of Rain 2 yourselves, right? Like you just genuinely enjoy playing your own game.
Yeah, I mean, all through development, we would be like, on Wednesdays we played together. Sometimes when we're like really bored, we'll like play together. Like
that was kind of dark times. Like, that was like when we were like between games, we had nothing to play. It's like I guess we'll play Risk 2.
Yeah. So I'm hopping off of that a little bit. What are your inspirations? Like what would you say the biggest inspirations? Because clearly there's like the Wake of Vultures from Headhunter, Wrath of Exile. There's Transcendence. Also, what's it called? Chaos Inoculation. I'm sure there's many other inspirations. But what if you had to pick a few? If there are specific ones, what would you say?
So yeah. So we played a lot of PoE until we died once, and then we stopped playing altogether because we played hardcore. But like PoE to me is one of those games that I think is cooler to read about than actually play.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where a lot of like the kind of item inspirations come from that. I think in terms of visuals, I was referencing a lot for Breath of the Wild in terms of like how did they make a game that's cell shaded that didn't look like artificially worse. I know like because that was something I was struggling with at the beginning too, was like what if I did like pixel textures, or like I know a lot of games like to do the like vertex wiggling like old PlayStation games just to kind of like make it look lower fidelity. And that wasn't really the direction I was interested in terms of like making the game intentionally look worse for like a
style. I think there's
like capping it.
Screenshots in the Dropbox of like we would always joke through development of like, Duncan, if you zoom in on this, like it's all pixely and it looks pretty good, right? He's like, yeah.
It was definitely for a while we had like half resolution, so it'd render at half, and then like blow it up, so it looked all pixely, and so like it looked kind of more like Risk of Rain 1.
Got it.
But and so to me, like Breath of the Wild is like the best they've ever, or for like stylized graphics, and I don't think I've reached it, but it was cool to be like, okay, how would they render like metal, like why do they render the environment different than like the characters, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the early kind of, even, I mean, not necessarily for Risk 2, but for Risk 1, like the initial kind of designs was like just games that we had played together and we're like, oh, we like that, and we played a bunch of League growing up. We played like a bunch of like little kind of inspirational things that were like, oh, we like this concept or this like design from this game, let's like pull it in, and like this, like, the skills are super easy, like
a little bit of Halo in there too. Halo 3 in there.
I mean the Visions of Heresy, obvious example.
Yes. And even just like the outdoor design, I think that's a good game in terms of like big environments. It's a bit rare nowadays to have games with outdoor environments just because it's challenging in its own way. So because we were so new to 3D, I think we really kind of referenced a lot to be like, how the heck do you make like a tree? Like, how do you make this look big? Like that kind of stuff.
You can swear if you want to, by the way. You don't have to censor yourself.
Yeah, okay.
You can say, I don't care.
Yeah, sure thing. But yeah, I would say Halo 3 was a big one for like the environment. Would like walk around maps and be like, where are the ferns? Like, where are like grass and stuff?
Yeah.
I think there's a ton of learning from, like, now that you mentioned that, Duncan, I think we always like booted up other games and like, not in a bad way of like, how did they do this? But like, since we were so new to like how to make a 3D game.
Right, you had to synthesize from something. You had to draw inspiration for something, yeah.
Like load up Diablo or like load up Overwatch and like.
Well, that's true. D3 is a good one. Like, we played a lot of D3. Yeah. Oh yeah, Overwatch was for animation references, like transitioning, kind of like walking left, right, shooting stuff. That was really hard. map design, we used a lot of Halo. I remember, I think this is fine to say, like we model ripped the entirety of Sandtrap in Halo 3. And so like for a while I was in the files to be like, like if the map is good, we can at least focus on the other stuff.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
We focus on the gameplay a little bit. I still remember the Beetle Queen in Sandtrap, like visually.
Oh my gosh.
So
that's funny. Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. I'll cut that part off. It's legal.
No, I think it's fine. I think
that's probably fine. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to focus on the stuff that we were good at. Like, it doesn't really matter if like the level design is like super amazing or like how this like kind of interacts, but we just wanted to test like the gameplay. And I think that's something that we always refer to as like, as long as it's fun, it's like going to be fine. And so we just needed like a map to like run around it and shoot beetles.
Yeah. And it's freaking fun because I get that question a lot. Like, how do you play X many hours a day or this long of time? How do you not get burnt out? And I'm like, dude, it's just a fun game. It's just super fun to play. The combat is so satisfying. It's so freaking satisfying. And that makes sense. You guys prioritize that, the top thing. It's like that quote from, what's his name? Reggie from Nintendo. If the game is fun, you're gonna have a good time. Whatever that quote is. I don't know what it is, but the game needs to be fun. That's the duh. All right. It's duh.
A lot of people like talk to me about like, I've got this game idea or like this tutorial or like this demo. Can you play it and like tell me if it's good? And I'm like, like, can I walk around? Can I do this? Is it going to be fun? And they're like, well, you have to like, it's like, you got to get into it. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
It has to be baseline fun. Like, doesn't matter.
Yeah. So. That's funny. So what are your all's roles in the team? Because I'm assuming you have some overlap in terms of, like bouncing ideas off one another. There's not specific departments. Obviously, it's 3 guys, as far as I know. So like, what is the, I guess the usual process for taking an idea and then implementing in the game? Like, what are your specific functions?
So I would say that game design in general is kind of shared amongst all of us. Mm-hmm. We all have ideas for the game, and we don't have Jeff Gore on the call, but he has inspirations that are different from ours too, because he grew up playing different games, and that's actually proven like really valuable throughout development. Like he played like a lot of Doom and Half-Life, and that kind of reflects in some of the monster design. These like kind of chess piece combat thing.
Yeah.
If there was an idea, let's say like an item or something, depending on the item, sometimes I would implement the whole thing. So I do the art for the game. I do like the implementation of that as well. And I do, I guess, gameplay programming is what I would call that. So like items specifically, or skills, or monsters, that kind of stuff.
Got it.
Jeff's in charge of more system level programming, and like really tricky items. So like,
the
would be a good one.
Took like a week.
Dude, the disc, man.
The resonance disc? That took a while. Why?
It's so no. It was essentially.
He's gonna
like
hate
this.
That up.
Yeah. It took forever. It's like an autonomous like AI that has like different targeting, and it needs to like follow you. And like my thing is always like polish. To me is really important.
Sure. Yeah.
Like we got it working like 90% very shortly. So it looks at stuff, it shoots, it comes back. Like I wanted it to be able to like rotate and look instead of like instantly snapping and look. It's like, okay, well, that requires like a lot more difficulty, or like it it goes out then in again instead of like disappearing entirely, or like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It took after kills instead of like,
the presentation was important. Yeah. Because I can see like an easier implementation would be to zoom out, hit a target, and then boop, spawn back on you. And you obviously didn't want something like that.
Yeah, the disc is a good example of something I think just didn't totally work out. Like now it's just kind of like it like misses 90% of the time, but like when it hits really hard.
No, I think it's a great item, honestly. Because I remember there was one patch where you addressed the disc a little bit, and that definitely helped out a lot. I remember that.
It would miss a lot more before.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Yeah, I think the design it's interesting too, because we had like so much reference material for Risk 2 at the beginning. Like we had like the Commando, we had like the Huntress, we had all these things from Risk 1 where it was like, we know it's fun, we know it works. If we can get that into Risk 2,
yeah,
like those initial like 10 items, and like one that heals you, one that the glasses was like one of the first items. So we had a ton of reference from Risk 1, so that helped with design. But I think once we showed it PAX, then we're like, okay, the game is good. Like all the stuff from Risk 1 is like really solid. That was like our testing kind of bed. then the design changed where it's like, all right, everything we're making from now going forward is like new stuff, like all the ideas we've wanted to add, all the new characters, all the new items, like all the new maps. So that was pretty fun for us to be like, okay, the base is there. Now we can start creating a new game. And I think early on we were all just like throwing ideas out, like this character sounds cool, this guy from this game, like all this like different stuff. And then we realized like you could sink a bunch of time into animating it and like creating and modeling it, and then it like wasn't that fun. And so we had to like kind of hone in on like how we design things and like planning things a little more, and like so then we got like some like small design docs for characters and stuff like that, a little more like kind of professional, if you will, less like just like random thoughts. So that was kind of an evolution of the design. I think now though that there's so much, it's like a lot, there's actually more ideas that we have that we want to do, and that's like kind of like the next update that we're doing, and like the expansions, which I'm sure we'll talk about in the future. But there's just like a lot of cool ideas to build off of. And I think like to go back to your original question, I think I'm all of like the business side stuff, not all of it, but I think me and Duncan split that pretty well, just because we started the company in college and we've been friends forever, so we kind of have like similar goals for that. So I think the business stuff is shared pretty well, and then design stuff we both have a big say on it. So
did you guys go to the same college? Because you guys are childhood friends, right? Or pre-college friends, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been friends since like third grade, so very
like the definition of childhood friends.
Yeah, and then I went to UW Bothell, so it's like
University of Washington,
away from UW Seattle.
Okay,
so we were very close, but not at the exact campus.
And did you both go for game design related stuff, or did you like a specific track under something else?
So not anything related to.
So I think it cut out a little bit. What'd you do?
Finance degree.
Oh, that would make sense. That would make sense while you do the business stuff.
Yeah, and I did mechanical engineering with like mechatronics specialty is like what I graduated with.
That's awesome. So nothing to do with game design.
No.
Yeah.
The math skills helped out.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For programming, but no, we didn't go for game stuff.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool. I mean, that's just a case of you guys obviously love games, and then you just figured, hey, if we love games so much, let's try making one. Let's try doing something. That's awesome.
Yeah, this was like junior year of college is when Risk 1 launched.
Yeah.
So what was it? I haven't played a lot of Risk and Rain 1, but a lot of people watching I'm sure have. What was your inspiration for that? Was that another instance of, hey, let's make a game that we'd have a lot of fun playing? Were you super into roguelikes at the time? 2D platformers or what?
So our childhood game that we played for like maybe like 8-9 years was Maple Story. So that was like a 2D action game. So that I would say is the biggest inspiration for Risk 1 by far.
Yep.
And I think it's in like every part of that game. In terms of why we made a roguelike, I think it was just like easy. Honestly, I don't really remember. It's been so long.
Yeah, you don't need to worry about like permanent like progression. Where do you save? Or you don't need to worry about that. You just die and reset. Easy clap.
It had just started. Like I think
Binding of Isaac kind of got big.
Just come out or just gotten big, and we're like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Which one? Sorry, cut out again. Which one cut out?
Binding of Isaac.
Oh, right. Okay.
Like just coming out and just getting popular, but I think we realized like how small of a team that was, and like, oh, we're a small team. We can't make like this huge game that's like always like progression and stuff like that. So it made a lot of sense for us to make a roguelike and make like it's always fun, it's replayable, like we can reuse assets, we can do like all the small team indie stuff, and it worked pretty well.
Yeah.
But yeah, Maple Story was huge. I think at the time we were playing League, so there was like obviously like the 4 skills in the middle.
Controls, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we wanted to do that because it'd be really hard to have a new game, like a new idea, and like convince players of like a certain control scheme, or like trying to like teach them how to play and invest time in it. We knew like, there's a ton of people who played either Maple Story or League like growing up or playing it right now who would see this and be like, oh, I know what that is. I've played
abilities on the bar.
Yeah.
Although we made it ZXCV. I don't really remember exactly why. Like I remember we talked about why isn't it? I think my reasoning was that it was too similar. I don't really remember. But like Paul really wanted to do QWER, and I insisted it's ZXCV, and I don't remember why anymore. I think for some, or I guess in Maple Story that was the controls.
Oh, it was. Oh, I didn't know that.
It was like Z was like pickup, or something like that.
Huh.
Well, your hand was always in the bottom left.
Yeah, I do.
You had little arrow keys in the right hand. So it's like,
See, I was
Yeah, it
a
kinda makes
RuneScape
sense.
kid. I didn't play MapleStory. I played RuneScape. I know it was like either RuneScape, MapleStory, or WoW. I think those are like the big three when we were all growing up in terms of like online MMOs to play.
I played all three.
I was gonna say Paul played all three.
That's great. That's great. So the next question would be, I guess we were kind of asked this. It would be, what's the general process of making an idea on paper of reality in the game? And you kind of already answered. If there's anything else you want to add to that, you can go ahead. But you just bounce around ideas. Now you're at the point where you're much more streamlined, as you said, with the documents and stuff. But I guess to put it back a little bit, go back a little bit. When it first started, when did you first realize that you had a good amount of content to put the game out? Like, was it right before the pack? You're like, okay, this is looking pretty good now. We have a lot of content.
I don't remember.
Well, because pack was like the 1st of September 2018, and I think we did early access March. But I think that was mostly because while we were at PAX, someone from Gearbox stopped by the booth and like played it and like didn't really. I didn't talk to him. I think maybe Duncan.
I talked to him. Yeah.
Oh, so they technically approached you. I was going to ask that too. So Gearbox found out about you guys. You didn't go to Gearbox initially.
Yeah.
No.
So actually, since Risk 1 had done well, we were like, we're going to like self-publish our next game. We can like handle it. We can like do this. We can do this. And we're like, all right, we're not going to get a publisher. So we didn't reach out to anyone about Risk 2. That was kind of why it was kind of hidden from like the public and everyone else at that time. Like, we're just going to wing it. And so they actually played it at PAX. And then afterward, we were like back in the office the next Monday. And they were like, hey, we stopped by. We played it. It was like super fun. Like the line was like super long. Everyone was having a good time. Like we played it. It was amazing. We don't know like what we would do with you guys, but we like really wanted to say like we like the game. And that was like very interesting email. It wasn't like, hey, we want to publish you right away or like, get this. And we're like, okay, that's cool. We like ignored it for a while. We're like, we're not getting a publisher. But then after a while, we're like, all right, they know what they're doing. They've got like other games. So we finally emailed back and we're like, all right, let's like talk about it and see what there could be. Since the game was already kind of like a year and a half into development, we'd already like had an idea. It was a sequel. It was like pretty safe.
I was going to say, because when it launched, literally I opened Steam on the day, March 27th, I believe is the day it came out. Correct me if I'm wrong. But the little blurb that pops up, 28th, you're right. The little blurb that pops up, Risk of Rain 2 just released. It was 10% off and buy one, get one, whatever. That's what caused me to buy it. There was no like YouTube video. There wasn't like a marketing, any like Twitch commercial, like nothing. So that makes a lot of sense. You guys had already, pretty much gotten to that point. You're like, all right, we're ready to go. So what has been Gearbox's, I guess, influence or role in the development of Risk of Rain 2 so far? Not development. That's incorrect way to phrase it. You know what I'm saying? Like, what has their influence been? Yeah.
So like if I remember correctly, one of the reasons why we eventually pulled the trigger was that we would be on stage at the same time as Borderlands 3.
Oh,
so they were announcing Borderlands 3
idea.
On the same date as we released. So I was here in Seattle doing the launch, and then Paul went on stage. If I remember correctly, Paul went on stage, right? That was that one.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, Paul went on stage to announce the game. And so like that's where like a huge amount of like early traffic came from.
Got it.
Was people who wanted to play kind of co-op shooty games, waiting for BL3, and so they played our game instead.
Dang, that's like a perfect storm. Holy crap.
Right. And I would say just that would be enough, honestly. So Gearbox's role, I would say, is all of the kind of marketing, like Twitter stuff they do. The biggest thing that's been valuable to us is QA. Yeah. So our QA is Paul plays it and it works, right? But like the game is inherently random and like has like a lot of systems that are intersecting. So it's very common to be like, if you get these selection of things, it doesn't work, right? It happened a lot for Risk 1, where we'd release a patch and it would have a bunch of bugs, and then we'd have to do like another patch to like fix the bugs with that patch, and like definitely develop like some sort of like anxiety disorder in me to do like patches. So the QA, where we actually submit it and like a bunch of people are dedicating their time to try to make sure it's good, is for me personally like so amazing, just because it was so stressful without that. Because you just kind of just hoped that it worked.
Yeah.
Right?
And then if it doesn't, then the community yells at you, and then you have to go make the patch. And now the time is not on your side, so you have to get the patch out. Yeah, I can imagine that was. Yeah.
I think there's two like little stories about that. I think that are interesting for people. When we first did Risk of Rain 1, that was launched in November 2013 in college, and it was just Duncan and I, and we were launching that morning, and we'd been up all night like changing things and like pushing builds and like figuring it out since it was our first game. And we were going live at 9 a.m. I think, and when it went live, it like emailed everyone and said like, hey, it's ready to go. And I had uploaded an empty folder as like the game executable, so we were selling keys for Risk of Rain with nothing in the folder. So we were just like
nothing in there at all.
So we were like in college. It was like some kind of like
it was like a Friday or some random ass day.
Man.
And we were like selling these $10 keys with empty folders, and I'm like, we're going to jail. We're like gonna get
oh my gosh.
So we had to like re-upload the game. There was like no executable, like figure it all out, and then like it's bad. So that was our first experience of launching a game. Was like it doesn't work, it's not there. And so we're like ever since that we've been like, very cautious of like how we put the game out and like how we update it. I also think another point to go on what Duncan was saying is like our initial thought with Gearbox is like, at the very least, if we get up on that stage and announce like, hey, Risk of Rain 2's out, and that happens, we're like happy with the relationship. Like that'll be like great. We like
it's worth it.
Signed this deal. It was like amazing, good for us. And I think that was like our bar of expectation. And since we've been working with them for like a year and a half or 2 years, it's been like infinitely better than that. Like the QAs have been amazing. Like all the people that we've met through Gearbox, since it was only like me, Duncan, and Jeff, it's like 3 people. We can only like bounce so many ideas. So I think the people we've met, like the QA, the like the business side of things of like ideas or like certain things, has been really, really good. So we're like very happily surprised with,
I'm sure they were pretty happy too when they started seeing the sales numbers rolls in. Yeah. What was that like? What was that like? Honestly, going from Risk of Rain 1, which was a hit, but it was super niche. This is still a pretty niche game. Obviously, roguelikes are not like out there like Call of Duty or something. But what was that like? That difference?
I think so. When I was in Boston announcing at PAX East that Risk 2 was like launching, that was on the 28th. We were, I think, announcing it at like noon or something Eastern time, and I checked. Or like I think Randy checked the Steam charts, and before we had even announced that it was out, we were #1 seller.
Wow!
Right. Duncan like texted me or messaged me like, "We're #1. Like no one even knows the game's out yet, so it's gonna be pretty good." I was like, "All right," I was like, all pumped up and like ready to go. And
I think we soft launched at 9 a.m. right?
Yeah.
But we didn't announce it till 11, so it was just kind of like hidden until then.
If you knew about the game, it was like you could like buy it. So we were #1 before we even like got on stage. So that was pretty wild. I think we sold 1 million copies the first month.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
And that was like the same dollar amount as like Risk of Rain had ever produced in like 5 years or something. So it was pretty significant, I would say. Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
So how do the player numbers have any impact on content updates? So are you looking at? I'm assuming there's some kind of correlation between player count, active player count, and actual retention, like the people that come back to the game. Obviously, new content brings new players with it. But are you guys worried about that? Were there certain updates you're like, oh, the numbers aren't quite stabilizing as much as before? Was that ever a factor?
I would say it was fun to see it go up. The game, ultimately, once you purchase it once, there's no like instant cost.
Yeah.
Right? So it doesn't really like, we're not like gonna go broke if someone doesn't log in every single day.
Right.
And in some ways, I like that about Risk 2. So another game I forgot actually that we were just kind of hot off playing at the time was Destiny 2.
Oh yeah.
And that game to me had like a really, I don't want to use this word because it's strong, but like a light version of the word, like exploiting in terms of like time gating things or like weeklies and dailies.
100%, dude. I think you're in a safe company here. I think you can say that.
But like, I mean, I get why though. Like they got to sell all this stuff, but like, to me, it just kind of, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And so for Risk 2, there's nothing forcing you to play except hopefully you like the game. There's nothing kind of built into like try to keep player counts high. So to sort of answer your question, we don't really care about player counts at all, just because it's not like
It's not relevant,
required
yeah.
for our business. I think it's nice when it's high because it feels good to have like people playing the game.
Obviously.
But I wouldn't say that it's something that we'd prioritize compared to if this was like a subscription game or something.
Gotcha.
And I think for Risk 1, we had our biggest day was like a Christmas sale. Like when we launched in November, we had a Christmas sale. And I think Total Biscuit played the game.
Wow.
In December, like December 11th, I think. Mm-hmm. And after that, it was like this major spike of people playing, and we were like super pumped. I think we hit 5,000 players.
Wow.
Concurrent. And I think with this 1.0 patch for Risk 2, we hit 70,000.
Yes, it was over 70 for sure. Yeah, that's insane.
So we were like, that's good. That's a good sign. And then we like sent a screenshot of Duncan, like to Duncan and Jeff, and was like, "This is pretty cool." Like, "Yep, pretty cool."
Yeah. Yeah. So to switch back to like specific development stuff, how important is the lore in the game? Like, does the lore come before often? Like before you start implementing stuff, do you think about what would it be like in the world, or do you just kind of get an idea, go for it, and then write the lore after that?
I feel like this is directed at the captain ship thing.
Oh no,
like
no.
Not using it in realms. No. So I would say lore, not really. It's more like I would say like internal consistency. In terms of like, I'm trying to think of a good example. A lot of times there's item ideas that don't work because it would come from the planet. So that's like a really common thing. Where it's like, oh, like what if there was like a baby golem or something, but then that wouldn't make sense coming out of the chest.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
We can't do that item.
Yeah.
Also, like, kind of like super intelligent sentient life isn't something that we've really said humans have come across. So there's no playable, like, clever thing. Like Acrid is kind of like an animal,
right?
And Rex is like a robot thing.
Yeah.
So that I would say like things like that come up very often. Other than that, the game's lore is so like loosey-goosey that it's not super restrictive. And it's something that I think we find fun about the game is that you can have like sci-fi stuff and like haunted stuff and kind of magic stuff and all that kind of fits in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a big part of that too, even with Risk 1, was like we didn't grow up playing like a lot of super slow-paced kind of like story game with like a bunch of cutscenes and like you're like waiting for these things to happen. Like we just want it to be like fun. Like people use the word arcade a lot for Risk Rain 1, which is like you just like sit down and you play for like half an hour and you're done. There's no like crazy cutscenes or like things stopping you or like these weird like guided missions. So I think the lore always kind of took a backseat to the gameplay, but it wasn't like we were forgetting about it or like ignoring
it's not it's clearly not neglected. I mean, look at the logbook entries. There's
it's like super fun for us to have like this like if you care about it, you can go read it, and people like love that about it. It's not like trying to like when you pick up an item, it doesn't like pause the game and like read out this huge text thing. And
whose idea was it to rewrite the sticky bomb entry? It's fantastic.
I write most of the log entries. Jeff's written some as well. So that was one of the ones that I wrote.
It's perfect.
And I think that was a fun one.
Yeah.
I think a lot actually now that we're talking about story, a lot of things about Risk 2 kind of depend on Deadbolt as well, because Deadbolt depended a lot on Risk 1. As in for Deadbolt, this was kind of after Risk 1, it was like really kind of hard. We're all sort of burnt out. And I wanted to make a game that was the opposite of Risk Rain. So Deadbolt it's violent. It's not procedural. It's story based. It's mission based. So a lot of kind of my creative energies were expended in Risk 1 in that space. And so Deadbolt was like a nice refresher in that I could like write a story. I could do like something with really tight themes.
Yeah.
Not like everything's like everything goes sort of universe. It was kind of a lot more contained. And then off the back of Deadbolt, the energy I had for Risk Rainy style games is back. And so like I don't care that much about telling a good story. I feel like I did a good job with that for Deadbolt. And so like it's probably unlikely that for our next game it's gonna be like exactly like Risk Rain 2, you know?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Just because we expend a lot of our energy for that.
Did you just confirm Deadbolt 2, dude?
Oh,
No, I
I mean,
didn't.
if you look at the hiring page, it says specifically pixel art. I don't know.
No, yeah.
Well, out of curiosity, 'cause I don't know a lot of game detail stuff, game development details, but I'm sure some people are interested. What software do you guys use on a regular basis?
So a fun story for Risk One is the art was done in MS Paint.
Wow.
It was MS Paint and Game Maker's like sprite editor.
Yeah.
So I would copy things like images off of Paint into that one, and you could kind of flip through it. And for Risk 2, we use Unity for the engine, and I use Blender for the 3D modeler.
Gotcha.
And I also use Blender for animating and for sculpting as well, and
Gotcha.
Photoshop for textures.
So a little bit of it. There's just the standard stuff because I know I'm familiar with all those.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cool. So I guess we can get like specific questions because I'm sure people are gonna have. I actually have one question to go off the lore a little bit. What's the point in buying the chests? If the chests are already falling off the ship, they're on the ground. Is it a lock, and the only way to get through the lock is to pay for it? Like, what's the logistics here?
It's in one of those entries, I think. The reasoning. I
In
think
Risk-
it's in the-
Is it a
Risk 2.
delivery? Like this ship is making deliveries somewhere, and that's why you have to pay for it because when it's dropped off, like the customer has to pay for it. Like I don't understand.
Oh, so like in Risk 1, the contact light was shot down, which carried these chests.
Right.
And I believe the Rusty Key or some lore entry, I want to make sure it's actually in the game, kind of mentioned that like it's like a failsafe.
Okay.
Like it's like what's the show where like you go into like storage units and you can like buy the whole storage unit?
It's not. I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't remember what it is.
Storage Wars.
Storage Wars. Yeah. That's it.
It was
Yeah.
kind of like in line with that, in that like it's like deactivated, it's been like shocked, and so you can just like buy to like open it, sort of thing. If I remember, that was the idea, anyways. I don't remember if that ever made it into the game, but that was like the internal logic for like why can you buy stuff to open it.
Yeah.
In terms of like why do monsters hold gold? At that point, it's just gameplay. You know, like,
Right. There has to be a certain.
I
Yeah.
can't justify that one.
Yeah.
I looked it up and it is the Rusty Key for anyone who's
Okay.
curious.
Cool.
It like describes it as like a fail safe in the factory.
Mhm.
Like you can like do all sorts of weird stuff in case you can't get it open. You can like pay money.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it was never like there was always like these gifts and like Risk 1 of people like making jokes about it. Where like you're like running along, like throw coins.
That's pretty funny.
You know, gameplay first. It's like they gotta drop money and you gotta like use the money on chests, like obviously.
And if
Yeah.
we can, we try to justify it in universe reason. But
Right. That would make sense. Yeah. It seems like you guys are thinking of all of the different aspects at once. You're not thinking of just like, obviously the game has to be fun, but it also needs to make sense, you know. And that I think a lot of people, that's why they're so into Risk of Rain 2, that attention to detail, that level there. You guys are clearly approaching this on all fronts, and it shows. It really does show.
yeah, it's easier when the team is small. Also, just because
yeah.
like, we all probably have a proper understanding of how the game works.
Right. So I guess we can kind of speak to the future a little bit now. So in terms of the hiring stuff, are you guys excited for this? Is this more like, are you anxious to get it over with and just get, because I'm sure once you guys are all acclimated with one another, it's going to be awesome. You guys are going to, full steam ahead. But are you more nervous about it right now, or what's your general thought process? Because you're clearly expanding, right? Unless I'm reading everything wrong. You're clearly expanding.
You're right.
Yeah, we're expanding. I think there's a couple different things that you touched on that are true. I think one of the most fun parts about hiring is that like we're going to add more people to the team. It's like cool, like we never knew Jeff really well before this, and now we do, and it's like a great dude and works on game. It's fun. So there's like that aspect of it. There's also the aspect of like a team of 3 should never have made Risk of Rain 2. Way too much to do. So I think that is a huge aspect of like wanting to hire. We've always been pretty, not like nervous about hiring, but like, if we can make the game we want to make with the team size we have, why
bother? Yeah.
We're trying to build like this mega, game development business. It's more like we want to make a game. We need like a certain people to make it. It worked out. So I think that we've kind of gotten to the point where to continue working on Risk 2 would be like a pretty big undertaking. So I think having more people on that team is pretty huge. I also think we have other game ideas that we want to do, but like we can't just like announce 1.0 and be like, all right, peace. We're like gonna go work on the next fun thing. So I think there's like a level of obviously there's so many more ideas for Risk 2, and there's like things we want to set up. So like there's like content coming out, and like people are still enjoying it.
Yeah.
But we also want to be able to like expand and like.
Right. The creative freedom. That makes total sense. Yeah.
I think a lot of what's fun for us also is just like doing stuff that's new. Hiring to us is new. Doing like long-term support is kind of new to us as well. So that's kind of where it's still, to me, fun until it's solved. Like, how do we hire and get them on board with the team? And then also some of our interests are, our future game ideas are loftier, right? And so we just need more talented people in the company. And I would say that's kind of the like regret we have with Risk 2, is that now that it's complete, I think we had an opportunity to have more skilled like teammates, and we don't have that, right? We just have like a bunch of experience.
Yeah.
And so we kind of want to be able to fix that, so to speak.
Oh yeah.
So we can have like a big stable of really talented people. So if we want to do a bigger game, we don't have to like hire a bunch of people and make a new game at the same time. Like that sounds really hard.
Yeah.
So like the hope is like Risk 2 is going to be like a bit of an easier introduction as well for people we hire.
So feel free to ignore this question entirely. Don't reveal anything you don't want to. But what is the general thought process right now with the longevity of the game? So you kind of answered it a little bit right there. You're kind of using it as a springboard for the new hires, get them familiar with your workflow, blah, 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 and then eventually go into something else. Is that basically what it is, or is there more to it? I
think at a very basic level, yes, that is correct. I think that we have been sprinting toward getting 1.0 out, and like the milestones, like the public roadmap has been like we would finish. So we had like almost 3 months in between every kind of major content update. I think like, and QA took like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. We would submit that build, and then the same day we'd make the new branch and then start working on the content for the next one. So there was like zero downtime.
Yeah.
So for like the last 1.5 years, it's been full-time work. I think kind of having the ability, like now we hit 1.0, we can like take a breath and like reassess and like hire more people on the team. I think we can finally look at, we have a bunch of people playing this game, a bunch of people who love this game on, console, PC, whatever. And now we don't want to just be like, all right, we're out. That's enough. We want to continue supporting it. We have tons of new ideas. We got, ideas we wanted to do during early access that we just didn't have time for, kind of like the dev blog posted, mentioned. So there's a lot we want to do going into the future. We just need more people to do it.
And that's exciting. That's the best situation to be in, honestly. You have so many things you want to get done. You just need the people to get it done.
Yeah, I think I wrote in the dev blog that CU6, so that's, I guess, the next content update.
Yeah.
It's for both players and for us.
Yep,
and I really do kind of mean that in terms of like, there were like so many things we really wanted to do, and we just didn't have enough time. Like because like the thing about the content updates was that it looked like totally fine, like player facing, but it's kind of like each of them were kind of hot to land, and they required like a lot of clever navigation to try to get it done in time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Like my favorite one is what's it called? Soulless control units.
Yeah.
So like the plan for that at the time was there was the small vulture and there would be a big vulture. Like a boss vulture.
Yeah.
But like the vulture took a long time to get working because of the fact it goes on the ground and flies. Just like that whole transition was challenging, and just like now it needs 2 sets of animations compared to like most characters only need 1.
Yeah.
And so, it required like AI refactor to get it to properly navigate the air nodes versus the ground nodes. And so like by the time the small vulture was done, we had 2 weeks to do a boss.
Jeez.
So I was like, it's a big sphere.
Honestly, it looks a lot like what's his name? Destiny.
The servitors.
The servitors, yeah. With the specific boss, I can't remember his name.
So that's why it has the little tentacles on the ground, or like on the bottom. Have to be like, this is not exactly the same.
Yeah, it's not the same thing, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
But like it uses the same textures as the ships in the map. So like kind of the big crashed ships.
Yeah, the gray, yeah.
So I kind of rearranged those textures. It's a big ball, so it has no flying animations.
Yeah, no limbs.
And flyers in general are like way easier than grounded characters. And so like to a player, it's like, oh, it's a cool boss. To me, that's like, I really did like a really good job on that to like turn that around in like a really short amount of time.
So here's a question.
No
Bouncing
way.
off of that, are there other specific circumstances where something like that happened, where it was just due to the crunch, the roadmap, where you just had to go, you just had to, no matter what, just get something out there? Was there anything else specifically?
I'm sure there was. So I guess if we went through content updates, what's that?
That was the biggest one, I'd say, probably, that I can remember.
That's the one I was proud of, at least, because it was like the best one.
Yeah.
I would say...
Except for the scaling, and the initial scaling on the alloy, where she was like, come on, that was way too much.
Come on. Yeah. I would say CU1 Rex was also 2 weeks. So that was kind of our first new character. Our mistake we made with that was that we started with a theme that is he is half plant, half robot. And we're like, that's cool. And then we're like, wait, what does that mean? Like in terms of abilities. And so like me and Paul spent all day for the design of that until we arrived at like self-damaging as like the thing. And then that kind of like took a momentum of its own. That was easy to do. CU2.
So that was Scorched Acres, and CU2 is Skills 2.0.
Yep. That one was fine. Outside of the Vulture, that was also our first white box from Ghost Punch. So Ghost Punch is that's a good one actually. So like we had to hire another team to help do this stuff, right? So they did the white box, like the stage design. So that was my first time converting their white box into playable space.
So what, for anyone, I don't know, but I can imagine white box is just the basic text, not textures,
geometry.
Geometry, and it's like okay.
Yeah. So that's the reason why that map has so much like weird geometry, like little gaps and stuff, is because like I didn't really know what to do with it. Like it was new to me, and so there's like these little gaps and stuff, and I just like stuff a bunch of boulders in there to try to like fix it.
Yeah.
There's that door in the caves too.
That goes the
So that whole section was like we just didn't have enough time to finish that, like texture it and like put all grass and stuff, and like what would you do there? So we just closed it.
Gotcha.
The loader was fine, actually. That went really well.
Yeah. Yeah, Jeff had a big impact on that one, Gord. They're just like, grappling. And you're like, okay, well, that's like a million things. So he's just like...
He had that idea before release, before early access, of like the loader being a grapple hook character, and he really knocked that one out the park.
Oh, yeah.
CU3, Hidden Realms.
Like experimented with like an alternate game mode.
Yeah.
Trials at the time, but that was like a very like, if you liked it, you liked it. If you didn't, you like never touched it. So I think that was our like way of kind of putting something into the actual like run of the game that you wanted to like try. And that took a while to like. At first, it was like base defensey a little bit, and then it was like it kind of evolved as we played it. And we had to make it balanced and like make it so like like there was a lot of like back and forth on that, but we always do something new in each content update if we could.
Yeah.
It reminded me of the obliteration thing, that whole map. I think I did it in like 6 hours, honestly.
Wow.
It was like, oh wait, we need like an ending somehow. So let's just like do this thing, right? So that was a quick one. A lot of our good ideas do come like last minute as well. I remember the 3D printers were one as well.
Wow, the printers weren't initially going to be a thing, or weren't on the...
Not until like the last month or something. Like,
wow.
It was pretty near. It was just like, oh, we'll just do it.
Because they're a huge component of the gameplay loop. They're massive.
I think both the printer and the scrapper was something Duncan did for fun on the weekend. And then like on Monday, he was like, hey, what do you think of this? And we're like, that's pretty cool.
So out of curiosity, why did the scrapper take until the 1.0 release? Was there a specific reason?
It was never on our list.
I didn't have the idea.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So the printer was at the beginning before. I see what you're saying. I thought at the same time you had printers and scrappers. Never mind.
No,
my bad. Yeah. I was like, wait, the scrapper was at the beginning. You should put that in. It's a pretty good. It's a pretty good.
That'd be cool. C3 was fine. That was Acrid, right?
Yeah.
I think at the time we were debating Acrid versus a new character, because we didn't know going to back-to-back risk one characters was a good idea.
Yeah.
That was fine. The only interesting that was stage variants, right?
Yeah, that was Hidden Realm. Yeah, definitely, that was Hidden Realms.
So the only interesting tidbit there was, so Ghost Punch did these stage variations. And so the first one they did was for, what's it called? Titanic Plains. And the variation for that, and it was like way too big. It was like twice as big as the current one.
Wow.
So we chopped it in half, and so like that geometry is now used in void fields, like the terrain.
Oh, interesting.
So I mean, there's like those like kind of arches, right? And you see that all over the game.
Yeah.
But like it was really prominent in Titanic Plains.
For sure.
And
Yeah.
So like that's the case. It was just like we just chopped that map and we kind of moved it over.
What if we just take Titanic Plains and push it over there?
that was Scavenger. Oh, that took forever.
The Scavengers.
Yeah, I think that got up to like 90% in like 2 weeks, and the remaining 10% was like another 2 weeks.
Holy crap!
Crashed to the game for like.
Oh yeah, he would crash all the time.
Holy crap!
It would just like hard crash forever.
Or yeah, he was like holding a specific item and he died. He would like go underground and shrink or something, and it would crash. So we spent a long time on that.
Wow.
I don't even know like how we fixed it. I think we just made it stop doing that. Like, I think he like puts it away instead of or something. I don't know. There was something
That's
that
funny.
we couldn't fix.
Did you guys just not die to ceremonial daggers when you were testing? You're just like, it'll be fine. You put it in.
I think we knew. I just thought it was good enough. Like I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
No, because like the capacitor I knew was fine.
Yeah.
BFG grav cube, it's fine. And the ceremonial daggers was like, that's a kind of borderline, right? And then it just wasn't borderline. Right?
It was not borderline at all.
bad.
Literally, like missile launcher's fine because you just run behind a wall, but ceremonial daggers just go around the wall. You're dead. Oh man, good times.
I always err on the side of like, if it's borderline, we'll like leave it in. It's like that, it's like the reason we're having this conversation right now is because it was like left in and it was like fun. Like, I mean, fun and like interesting and like you'd like die to it, like rage to your friend and talk about it. But there's always like good things about it.
Right.
Eventually we noticed like, all right, that's not like super balanced.
Like old sticky bombs. Hey, can we get an updated version of the sticky bombs, like a green
sticky
version?
Bombs are fine. They're good. I promise.
Oh, they're still pretty good. But old sticky bombs.
That was a little broken. The cremator is one of my favorites one from Risk 1. So that boss is like completely broken. It's like way stronger than any of the other bosses. And I think it adds value to have things you remember, like when you play. So like the cremator is so strong and it's kind of so bullshit that like you tell everyone about the cremator, right? To me, that's kind of where the ceremonial dagger scavenger was.
Yeah.
It's like so bullshit. I'll remember it. But then it was like maybe a bit too bullshit, so like it was not fun. But like that's the things I really remember from a lot of games growing up. Too,
absolutely.
Like, kind of like the bullshit stuff.
Yeah, the adversity that you have to overcome. Yeah, definitely. That makes a huge impact, a lasting impact for sure.
Yeah, if everything's like super safe and super balanced, you just don't remember. Like I don't remember any of that.
Yeah.
It's like you just kind of coast along the whole time. There's no like huge,
texture
spikes of like intensity or excitement. So try to leave in those little edges and it keeps things exciting.
Yeah.
I guess Tesla coil is a good example too, where it's like just borderline, where we kind of like always like evaluating. Like
in terms of for the player strength or for on scavengers specifically?
No, we know it's broken on the players, but like for enemies to have like AI. So we have like an AI blacklist for some items.
Yeah.
So it doesn't show up in the void fields or for scavengers and stuff. And the
Gotcha.
Tesla coil has always been like borderline.
Yeah.
It's like you have like an indicator, but like it is quite far and you can't dodge it. And so it's like, I think it's okay still. So that's kind of that. I would say the Tesla coil is as close as we could get in terms of just like bullshit.
And that's a good thing. I'm glad you guys kept it in because on the Mithrix fight especially, I was honestly expecting to see something about Tesla coil on Mithrix, but I'm glad you didn't touch it because it's exactly that. Like if you die to it once, that's your fault, right? It's like, oh, that's such BS, dude, but it's still your fault. Like you got too close, and then immediately you know that from there on out. Okay, don't get close to Mithrix on the last phase when he has the Tesla coil, and that I like that because that adds more incentive to pay attention, but at the same time you can still kind of make some bonkers situation, Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that you died this morning to the Tesla coil.
Did he?
Yeah, I did. I actually did. Yeah, a freaking ball came out behind me. He had my ice band still. By the way, hold on. Let me not forget about this part. It hit me from behind with the ice ball. Went down to 53 HP. One little tickle beam of the Tesla coil. Oh man. About the final phase on Mithrix, are you guys happy with it now, or the rate at which you get items back? Because I feel like there's plenty of times where I will chunk on a captain. Captain's a great example. I'll save my double hacking beacon for when he goes in the last phase. Obviously, wait till he's not immune anymore. But then I'll chunk him for like 25%, 30% of his HP. I get 0 items, and then I keep damaging him from a range, and I'll get like maybe 2 or 3 items, and at that point he's under half health, and I have like 2 or 3 items. So I feel like that's okay personally, because I've gotten used to it now. I just have to accept that I have to get close up in his face to get my items back. But are you guys comfortable with the fight now? Or you think it's in a better place, or do you have any ideas or any changes that you're gonna make?
So for that specifically, I think that the thing I'm not crazy about the Mithrix last fight is there's a lot of kind of hidden mechanics built in.
Yeah, you have to die. You literally have to die to them to learn the fight. Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. And just like, how do you get items back? It's like kind of a mix of flat and like percentage. Like, so if you hit them for a big hit, it does return them.
Yeah.
With the condition that the hit has a proc coefficient. So Captain's supply beacon specifically doesn't have a proc coefficient because we didn't want players to use that as a nuke, like all game.
Right.
So it's kind of fun at the beginning. You kind of expect it to land on a Lemmy and like kind of blast them.
Yeah.
But like we don't want players like one-shotting every boss with 2 beacons.
Interesting.
So
okay.
I think that's why you're not getting them back. I have seen some of your streams where I'm surprised that you're not getting items back. So I don't know if it's a bug.
I think because honestly, because I did Eclipse 8 on Captain first, and obviously you have to kill Mithrix a butt ton of times to get to that point, not including the victorious runs. You have to die a lot. And I think it was because the rate of attack. I think rate of attack is more important. That's what it feels like, at least. Like playing Commando and Huntress, I feel like I'm getting back. It feels really good. It feels really, really good on Commando and Huntress specifically if I'm constantly hitting the boss. But yeah, the characters with high burst damage, like Loader, for example, I go in there for a huge punch. It has proc coefficient, so I get a couple or maybe 1 item back. But I feel like the rate still feels a little bit off. The weighting for number of hits versus damage of hits.
So you don't get multiple back for like a bigger hit.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably what you're seeing with the Loader. The Captain, like I saw you hit him a lot with the shotgun and you weren't getting many back. That could just be a mix of low damage plus low proc coefficient.
Yeah. Just
like playing poorly with it.
Yeah.
In terms of like
the flame, dude. No, I'm kidding. No, they're true. You're 100% true.
No, not playing poorly. Not you're playing poorly. Like the mechanics are playing poorly with each other. Is what I meant.
I mean,
yeah, both. But I think that's the part I'm not crazy about in general. Is like all the weird little edge cases that we had to do to make it work.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is inherent. Like, why doesn't he get teddy bears? Why doesn't he get razor wire? You know, to a player, it's unclear, but I think it's for the best he doesn't get those things.
Yeah.
I think the item return mechanic could probably be improved instead of just being like random chance. It's like weighted somehow.
Yeah. So I don't want to be an armchair dev. This is not my intention at all. But I've had some pretty good suggestions on stream, and I think one of the best ones was just make it like a shrine of order. So you keep your items, maybe it gets a copy of them too, but you keep your items, and then it'll just change your items at random. Just cycle through them. And a lot of people were, I know it kind of goes against the whole, damage to get your stuff back. If that was your goal for it, then, by all means, obviously keep it. But I feel like that would be a really fun thing to experience because it still feels that theme of, oh crap, what's going on here? Oh shoot, my items are just swapping around. But I think that'd be a little better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say people also had the idea of like, what if he copied them instead of taking them?
But then the fight would be over in like a millisecond, right? Even with, yeah.
I think they're all good ideas. I don't know if it necessarily requires such dramatic changes. I would want to fix the inconsistencies first.
Right.
Kind of. Because I think it's hard to evaluate without that. And I still like the way it makes you think a bit about the items you're picking up.
Yeah, for sure.
It's in a nice spot now where it's not like I'm going to intentionally stop getting items to make the fight easier. But like maybe I'll scrap some beforehand.
Right.
Just to make that a bit easier. I think that's cool.
I agree.
I think also with the kind of Shrine of Order one, this might not apply as much, but we've always had kind of a design goal from the beginning of like working on the game that each run wouldn't feel kind of like you wouldn't experience everything in one run. Like that's always,
I
like,
see what you're saying. Okay.
unlockables that are like kind of gated behind other unlockables, or like gated behind characters or certain items. There's always these kind of like, it's almost like, I mean, it's not designed this way, but in old school RuneScape, you always had to like get all your skills to the right level before you could do the quest, before you could do this thing.
Yep.
Like that kind of like level of, if there was like one goal, you'd just like do it. I think the only thing with the sequencing thing is that you'd experience so many end game builds all at once that it would like.
I see. That makes a lot of sense. Then that makes a lot of sense.
That's
Like I said, I'm not trying to be an armchair dev. I'm not trying at all.
Yeah. No, I mean,
No,
I
not at all.
thought about that until you brought it up. So it's kind of interesting of like, if someone actually brought that idea to us, why we would say like, it's really cool.
Yeah.
But one of our goals or like our pillars of the game is to like make sure that when you do a run, it like feels significantly different because you have this certain setup versus your previous run, so you keep playing, and that's like a big pillar for us. So I think that's like an easy way to answer that question.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
So bouncing off of that, the inevitable question is bleed changes. Are you guys satisfied with the bleed changes now? Because honestly, if you're playing a character that can even attack remotely quick, you stack bleed. You just get bleed in the early game, you just decimate everything. Obviously, you guys thought of that. It was intended. But are you satisfied with the current state that it's super powerful? Like for Eclipse runs, for example, you play anyone that's not Acrid, Loader, or Artificer, you just win the game. You find a bleed printer. You just win. You're done. That's all the damage you could ever need.
So I would say the things I like about bleed are it requires a lot of investment, not just in items, but in gameplay. A lot of times you're forced to stare at a monster and not look at your surroundings, right? You have to keep shooting it.
It's true, yeah.
And so the cost is high. You have to do it one at a time. So you can't really like AoE a bunch of
you can't AoE.
Those are the bits I like. The parts to me that are a little weird is that the build scales off of both bleed chance and attack speed.
Yep.
But the bleed chance can be done primarily with just a bunch of white items. And it doesn't, there's no like tier 2 bleed that would make it better or something.
Yeah.
Eclipse runs also are a lot shorter term.
Yep.
And so the bleed items do better there. And then the last thing that's kind of weird to me is that bleeds are very thematically strong in terms of like critical strike's kind of like a neutral thing.
Yeah.
In my mind, bleeds are kind of like a vicious, violent thing. So it is a little strange for so many characters to use this violent mechanic, like the commando and the captain, and they all bleeding everything. It seems like a lot. In terms of like balance, I think it's okay. I think there's a world where the chance per dagger could be lower. So maybe you have to get 10 to match crit or something.
Okay.
But it's fun. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's
super fun. Absolutely. It's super freaking fun.
Yeah. It's just kind of fun to stack bleed on like a target and just see how high the number gets.
Yeah.
And so we always prioritize kind of the fun over that. I think Loader is a good example of that too, where like we know the character's way stronger than the other characters,
Yeah.
But like the ways we would fix that would be to make it less fun, like higher cooldowns on her swing, less damage on her punch.
Yeah.
And that's like the whole character is like swinging and punching. So like for that, it's like, okay, if we're really prioritizing kind of fun gameplay, we should technically leave it, right?
Yep.
And so that to me is the realm that bleed is in. I could see it just being pleasant if it was 10% for like just like calculation reasons.
Yeah.
But then it would make it a lot more challenging to stack it to higher numbers. So I would say it's okay. I would rather there was a couple more items required to make it work.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
But those items don't exist right now.
Yeah. Well, Shatterspleen, once you get like tons of proc chains going, Shatterspleen can get nutty. But I mean, if you're at that point in a run anyway, like you're pretty much good to go. Shatterspleen's an amazing addition.
You can't actually search for it either. I mean, you can like hope you get an imp overload and then hope that it rolls it. But that, like the idea that we had for turning, like to kind of bounce off of Duncan's idea of like the fun part of it, like we played the game a lot pre 1.0. We knew that bleed was strong. We knew that it was like exciting, but I think this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. We could have just nerfed it like right off the bat, and, like made it kind of borderline, and like, it could have just been like an average stat. But I think it's fun to have that like, memorable gameplay of like, oh, I got like 180 stacks on Mithrix, and it was just like chunking it down. So that's like super fun. I also think Shatter Spleen and like the perforator, like there was no moment when you saw a boss where you were excited. It was only exciting because it was an easy boss, which is like not the thing that we wanted. We like, you know, oh, the Beetle Queen, like it's a super easy fight. We wanted it to be like if you saw a Magmorm, you're like, oh, that's kind of like tougher and not as easy, but the reward for like killing this monster could be
yeah,
like,
I prefer.
Like content update 1 through 4, you're like, oh, boss, whatever, just whatever.
Yep.
But now with content update 5, you're like, oh, it's that boss.
Yeah,
Maybe
you hit the nail on the head. Honestly, you guys hit the nail on the head. Like it's so satisfying to see boss loot, except for the beetle guard, a little less than desirable. But obviously, it's intentional. You know, easy fight, easy item as well. So actually, going off of AI real quick, because the main reason why I don't like the beetle guard and specifically like drones and stuff, because they just don't keep up with you. They straight up do not keep up with you. So has there been the idea of like a tether distance, a max tether distance? If they break it, then they just boop, they get teleported right back on you. Has that been a thought?
A lot of the reason why the game is so stable and why we're able to do things like void fields and like artifact of they get items, I don't remember the evolution.
Yeah.
Is that all characters are treated the same. So playable characters and not playable characters, drones and monsters are all treated the same. And so the inputs are just different. And so that's been something that is challenging, is like for the drones, for example. In Risk 1, they were just like attached to you. In this one, they're like fully functioning characters.
Yep.
And so they just sort of get lost sometimes. And I think that could be like fixed, right?
Yeah.
Just like they get lost less often. I do think the Mithrix, the last stage makes me feel like a tether may be required, because there will be no way for a beetle guard to join you up there.
Yeah, honestly, just as soon as you get to the in the zone, as soon as you take a little bubble up and you go, just as soon as you break that berry, boom, they teleport in with you. I mean, that would be enough for me, because there's been plenty of times where at one time, actually, only one single time where I was like, okay, I'm gonna get this equipment drone, give them the backup, I'm gonna give this one a black hole, I'll be set up. I literally had to wait for like 4.5 minutes until they caught up to me. Like that's a long time for a Mithrix skill, especially on the Eclipse run. I know it's because people are going to say, oh, you're just talking about Eclipse runs. Oh, he's talking about the game in terms of Eclipse. No, I just in general, I think like something like that, a very simple change would be hugely beneficial.
I think we've talked about it almost every content update of like, you know, this is kind of an issue, or, you know, it is an issue of like wanting to keep them kind of tethered and wanting to keep them like, you know, the same as the certain bodies that you're playing as. But it is even like the thing like in Halo, where if you get too far away from your buddy, it just like ports you to them. Like that's a pretty nice mechanic to have.
Yeah.
So we've talked about that. I think.
Sorry. I was gonna say that's just one of those things. It's like on the list, right?
Yeah.
That we should be doing and just didn't have time to do.
Gotcha.
The challenge is like right now, us moving characters around a lot of times causes them to like fall through the floor, or like if they port on you, it'll push you through the floor. That happens right now with the Imp Overlord.
Okay.
So like if you're standing on like a node, so that's kind of the way they navigate. If you're standing on a node and Imp Overlord ports on you, it'll shove you through the floor.
Yep.
And so like that was the reason why this couldn't be like a one day thing, because the act of making it would be simple. Like the act of making it good isn't simple, and we couldn't do it in time for 1.0.
Gotcha.
So I think it's good. It just depends if we can do it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And that's like how so many things of game development, like we even do the same thing when we're playing games, like, oh, that's such a bad mechanic, why'd they do it that way? And there's like a reason,
right?
You know, in games like, oh, that's stupid, why didn't they just do it this way? It's like, well, they know, but there's so many other things in the background
that doesn't work.
Yeah.
As a player.
So jumping off of that, because I'm sure people are extremely curious to hear it, what other stuff is in the pipeline for the next content update? Like what are the big ones that you guys know something needs to be done, and you're just working on it?
So let's see. I don't want to say anything and like we can't actually do it.
Right.
That's my only hesitation.
I have a start here, actually. I have 3 right here. Printers and chests that spawn in a position where they can throw it off the stage. Is that intentional, or is that like hey, gotcha?
I get an email every week about that, by the way.
Holy crap.
Sending me emails about it.
So that goes back to the thing where it's memorable.
Yeah.
You know,
I figured it was it has to be intentional. Like there's no way you were playing the game, you found a crit printer, you're like, oh hell yeah, dude, and then you print and just boop, this falls off. There's no way you're like, all right, that's good, we'll leave that in.
We know it exists,
right?
And I'm sure there's ways to fix it. I just think it's kind of funny.
It is funny.
And like And I'm sure some players think it's not funny.
Oh yeah,
but
like Siren's Call and the little electrical ropes, whatever they are, the connectors, chests can spawn in there. Boop, just throw it off.
or like like you see like GIFs all the time of like someone buys it and it just like goes off the edge, right?
I agree. I think it's a minor inconvenience. Like maybe there's that one case where it's like you've been doing the whole run, you have no ATGs. There's that one ATG in the multi-shop and then it falls off. But anyway, that still goes directly with what you're saying. That's super memorable. It's hilarious.
I've gotten emails of people who are like, it like went off the cliff and I did it again and it went off the cliff again. And I'm like, why did you do it? You know doing it. So it almost made me want to leave it even more. Of like people are like, I spent like 7 of my scrap, all 7 went off the cliff. And
sorry, like, hey, why'd you try it 7 times? Okay, how about double printers on the same stage?
The same
printer, yeah, the same printer. Sorry, there's a terrible way of wording it. The same printer multiple times on the same stage.
I would say that is still okay. So part of like my philosophy for RNG is that it's only interesting when it becomes like really outliers. So like if remembering like let's say stage variations, you probably only remember one where there's like 3 chant shrines right next to each other or something like that.
Yeah.
And to me, that's that kind of thing where it's like, oh wow, there's 3 goat hoof printers on the same stage or something. It's like another memorable thing, something you remember. And so like you can kind of see this, our game design philosophies kind of leaking through here, where it's like, yeah, it's kind of pointless. I guess technically the positions do affect the gameplay a bit, if it's like closer to where you are. But we generally like to leave things in that are memorable. It's very hard to get rid of those, unless it's like a bug or something,
Right.
Like a crash, and we wouldn't leave that in, but...
Yeah. Because it's like, from the perspective of fun versus memorable, like it's one thing because the perspective could be different too. Like for me personally, I have a lot of fun when I'm on a run. It's tough, and then I get to that one point and it just feels great. I got that power spike and I'm good to go for the rest of the run, right? And then there's opposite times where I have terrible RNG or I'm just playing poorly and I'm struggling the most, and then I get to a stage and I see like 3 like monster truth printers on the stage. I'm like, dude, 2 of those could have been chests. Like I guess there's that side of it too, where I know you guys aren't super into making it balanced, quote unquote, as you've said many times in this video already. But from that perspective, it's more of a nuisance, if anything, right? It can get pretty frustrating over time. Like the novelty of seeing like 3 printers on one stage, that's a one-time thing, right? And then immediately, boom, it's just annoying after that.
So for the 1.0 update, the cost of printers were
lower.
Reduced.
Yeah.
I believe the number is 5 printers is 1 chest, 1 small chest.
Holy crap.
So in terms of like printers on a stage, it doesn't really affect the number of chests much.
It's not one-to-one.
That's a huge piece of info, actually. That's massive. It's the
same with scrappers. I was tweaking the numbers. I don't totally remember if we ended up at like 8 or something, and small chests were like 40 or something like that. But like the points there, you would have to get a lot of printers to be losing like a significant number of chests. Yeah. And it's the same with barrels. Barrels cost 1 point. Everything on the map costs points.
Yeah.
So even if you see like a lunar pod or something, I think that costs 1 point.
It's almost free. It would not have been a chest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the printers are in that area. They're just so big, we can't make them as cheap as barrels.
Gotcha.
Because there'd be a chance that like randomly it spawns like 300 of them or something. Like what's that map? The dark red one.
Abyssal Depths.
Abyssal Depths. Yeah, we have like internal names for all these maps. I don't remember any of the public.
Wait, what is it? What is it? What'd you say?
It's Damp Cave Simple. It's the name of that map. We had Damp Cave and it was too big, so now we have Damp Cave Simple.
Oh my gosh!
Which is Abyssal Depths, but that has like 300 points, right? So if a printer is like 5 points, then you could have like 60, technically.
Oh, I have a question actually. If the doors are closed, for example, on Abyssal Depths or on Distant Roost, does that cut the cost the points the director has, or does it just now enable the director to spawn all those credits in a smaller location?
I believe it's only Abyssal Depths that has that functionality, where if the door is open, it does grant an additional like 180 points.
Got it.
Something.
Well, like on Distant Roost, if that one's closed, it doesn't matter. The director still has the same amount of credits.
Yeah, that one's like small enough. Maybe the island, I don't remember. That was something we added specifically for Abyssal Depths, and I don't remember if we went back and changed that.
Gotcha.
For Black Beach.
I think it was just Abyssal Depths.
Wait, Black Beach? Wait, okay, you got to give me all the names now. You got to give me all the internal names.
Beach is Distant Roost.
Okay.
There's supposed to be a black beach. There's no beach at all. Golden Plains is Titanic Plains.
That makes sense.
Blue Lake is the aqueduct.
Blue Lake.
Foggy Swamp is wetland aspects. Frozen Wall is the snow one.
Huh.
Wisp Graveyard is Scorched Acres. Ship Graveyard is Siren's Call.
Yeah.
Damn Cave Simple. And then Sky Meadows.
Huh.
For actually Sky Meadows.
That's cool. That's cool.
Like the only return map.
What was that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's the only return map. So we knew like what the map was actually going to be called. So
okay.
Really.
Makes sense. That makes sense. And I have a question about the multi-shop. So a random multi-shop, as far as I know, the loot is predetermined when you spawn in, right? Like if you have a rusted key, you print it off the stage, the lockbox still going to be the same exact loot. Is that correct? Did the chest work like this too, where the loot is already decided as soon as you spawn in? So for a random multi-shop, is it just for, fun's sake, just to say, oh, I wonder where that one could be. I wonder what's behind door number 2 kind of thing? Because the loot's already random, quote unquote. The director chooses it, and now the multi-shop just, the question mark, yeah.
I think it's just done that way for networking reasons.
Okay.
Or for seeding reasons too, maybe. It's just, why not? For a player, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
Because that's information they'll never know. I know at some point we had ideas for items that could see inside chests as like an equipment or something. So technically, it does enable us to do that. For clovers, the original idea was that it would affect the chance, but because they're pre-rolled, we actually can't do that.
Right. Yeah, that would have been insane if the clover affected your. Oh my gosh, the chest drops and stuff.
Yeah,
that's
we would
crazy.
have done it if it was possible. But
wow. So it was always intended to be the most powerful item in the game, right? Like hands down, it was supposed to be the.
Just like And it was gonna. It doesn't affect shrine chance either.
No, it does not. Yeah.
I think.
It does not.
I don't
No,
know.
it definitely doesn't.
Yeah.
Definitely doesn't.
But it was supposed to be kind of like if you really got it, you could tell what it was.
Oh yeah.
Sort of thing.
Oh yeah. Shoot. Oh, the radar scanner. Actually, someone brought this up today. What if the radar scanner showed you what was in the chest? Is it pretty good? I don't know. I think that's a pretty meaningful change to the otherwise pretty laughable equipment. Not gonna lie.
That's also in the list of things like we would want to do. Is like, we talked about it, at least saying like, is it a barrel or is it a chest? Like having
like icons or something. Yeah.
I know there's a mod for that as well, and that's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, that'd be great, but we just didn't have time to do it.
So it is a possibility to show you what's inside.
The inside one, I don't know.
It's pretty broken, but
maybe.
We had that idea for an equipment. Like it would be like a X-ray goggle.
Yeah.
Scan it.
In the hands of a new player, that makes no difference, right? That makes absolutely no difference. They don't know the difference. But for someone that plays a whole butt ton, like that would make a massive difference. Getting a radar scanner, you'd be like, heck yeah, speed up my stage significantly. So I think that'd be an interesting idea.
There's also a lot of the utility items are a little bit better in multiplayer as well, and that's kind of one of them too.
Right.
Just because essentially use a third of your equipment slot if there's 3 players to have the same effect. Kind of same with the zip line one as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, I do agree. I never pick it up. Like I always drop it out.
I was watching a stream the other day, or a YouTube video, and the guy had that mod where he pretty much had like a radar scanner going the whole game, and it would tell him like when he landed on a stage, like, oh, there's 3 mountain shrines on this stage. And like
like it showed up in the text, right?
It was pretty cool. It's like, oh, there's like 2 left. And it would like ping every 30 seconds of like, you got 2 healing chests and 1 legendary chest unlooted.
Mm-hmm.
That was like a really cool. I mean,
that's a cool way to do it too.
That is cool.
So there's like some certain inspirations there of like what could be like, oh, that's super helpful information. Like how do you turn that into like game design or like an item? So it's pretty cool stuff.
Gotcha.
A lot of cool mods out there.
Oh yeah, so that's a good question to go off of then, or a good point to go off of. I'm the one asking the question. This is a good question. For modding, I know you detailed a little bit in the development thoughts. The modding support, you're looking more into it. How much, I guess, emphasis do you want to be placed on the modding community? Because in my mind, like for I don't know something like Skyrim, for example, the reason why Skyrim is still Skyrim is because of the modding community, obviously. So is that your goal, like eventually for Risk of Rain 2, to hand it over to the modders, hand the reins over, kind of thing? Or is it just you just want modders to have the support that they they would be like work better with, or?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think this is like a pretty not loaded question, but there's like a lot of like topics to go into modding.
Yeah, sorry, that was a pretty bad question, honestly.
No. I like that you're asking these kinds of questions.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think that so Jeff, or Gore, as everyone knows him, is also self-taught and like grew up modding games and like doing all kinds of stuff like that. So he's always had like this kind of passion for that, and we always thought that modding was a super cool way for small teams to like continue to create content or like information for like people who are interested in the game. And I think we want to obviously do that for Risk Rain too. Like there's so many more people out there who like love the game and can work on the game than the three of us. Like, you know, they just have cool ideas. I think the way that Jeff has coded the game has always been with modders in mind. Trying not to break things, trying not to use like structures or whatever that aren't friendly to mods or like modders. So there's always been this kind of like back of the mind desire to have modding like be a real thing. We obviously didn't have like modding support or like official modding tools on the content roadmap because we had no idea how long it would take, no idea if that's what people wanted.
Right.
There's got to be a community behind it. So there's like a lot of like factors that go into it. But I think that is a goal going forward of like, you know, we want more content, we want more people playing the game. There's like interesting ideas. How can we help them and support them and like make this community kind of go from kind of like this like shadowy, you know, like group of players who know about it, play it, to like a more front and center, like look at this cool stuff that people are creating. So that's kind of the goal of that. I'm sure there's like a million things to add to that too.
I think Skyrim's like obviously the best, or like just Bethesda games in general have huge modding communities, right? They have great tooling for that. I don't want to say we can necessarily achieve that because I don't know the technical details of what we're trying to do. The thing that I think bothers me and probably Gore as well is that mods do kind of break when we do updates. That's something we're really trying to avoid and have trying to avoid, is that like we know people are just devoting it purely out of passion and like love for the game. So we don't want to keep like squishing it every time we want to like make changes. So that's going to be something that's important for us. It's like bare minimum, like they'll stop getting like kind of messed up if we make changes to the game. And he's been doing a lot for that every patch. It's not like in the patch notes or anything, but he'll like kind of rearrange stuff internally to allow things to slot in easier for modders.
That's awesome.
So like, and it also makes sense, like, hey, yeah, small team, just like Paul said, having hundreds of people making mods makes us like a 100-person team, sort of, you know?
Yeah.
And if we're doing like long gaps between content, it would kind of help bridge that gap for players who want to just kind of play the game more.
For sure.
So that's kind of like the goal for modding.
Yeah, because in my mind, I'm just going to say it, I think an RPG in the Risk of Rain 2, like combat world, the combat arena, dude, that would be sick. Like permanent progression of some sort, like an action RPG, like Path of Exile's items, Path of Exile skill tree, Path of Exile in there, because that's like the penultimate ARPG on the market. Don't at me. I think that would be awesome. I think stuff like that. So, and obviously that's a lot of development time and a lot of resources. So hey, just modders, go for it, that kind of thing. So I think something like that would be absolutely awesome to see with the game for sure, like Risk of Rain 2.
We talk about that a lot, I think. It's like, because we we just like RPGs as well.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of times like, but like, does it really play to the strengths of the game, blah, blah, blah. I do agree those kinds of games are the games that we like. And it was even part of the conversation a bit for Eclipse 2, or just Eclipse in general. Sorry, not Eclipse 2.
I got you.
Was like, what if there's like positive and negative modifiers you could like pick or something, but like we just didn't have enough time to do that.
That's the first thing I thought of. I was like, oh, this is gonna be sweet. There's gonna be a bunch of like super tough modifiers, but you'll eventually, like every 4 levels or whatever, you know, arbitrary, you could smack in one little positive modifier too. I was like, man, that'd be so cool. But that's awesome that you guys are like you thinking about this stuff. So RPGs, that is clearly like a soft spot for you guys, so to say. RPGs.
I definitely.
PoE, we played. I mean, we were ranked 1 on the leaderboard for Diablo for like a season. And
wait, no way! You guys took it. So you're competing with Quinn69. That's why you guys were watching his streak. Oh man! You play with him, like in his party?
like Eggman and like all. Yeah, that's a good time.
Dude, no way. Holy crap. I remember watching his streams back then. So what about, were you guys freaking out when Criparian killed Hardcore World First, Diablo, when it first came out before the patch?
Crip was all. We've watched Crip forever. I mean, Crip. I mean, he's been playing like Hearthstone or whatever for like years now.
Yeah,
but
casual Crip.
in like his RPG like days was good times.
Oh man, amazing.
I think we got really back into the game once they released Greater Rifts.
Yeah.
So like we played the game initially when it came out, and it was like whatever, and then we really played the game when
Greater Rifts came out.
Yeah, I don't remember if that was with the expansion or not. We were pushing leaderboards in that one,
dude.
And so
yeah, you guys are hardcore. You're a little sweaty over there.
We play hardcore only, but PoE never. To me, and this is a little off topic, but I just hate doing the first 10 acts in PoE.
Yeah,
it's like such a waste of time, man.
Tutorial.
So,
imagine if we still had to do the trials on every single freaking character. I don't know how much you guys play now, but oh my, that was the worst.
I don't think we ever completed all 10 acts. I think we got to like Act 8, and it's like, man, like I just want to get to maps. Man.
Exactly.
I've done this for years. Like I don't want.
Yeah.
That's one thing that Diablo does way better for sure. Just the fun. I mean, obviously, you guys, that's your whole thing. You want the game to be fun. Diablo, you just get into the fun right away.
Yeah, you get to the rifts pretty much immediately if you have someone level you to 60. I think if you started at maps, I would be playing PoE.
Oh, I agree.
I like playing hardcore, and I don't like looking stuff up, but PoE is just not built for that, I think.
Yeah.
So like, I guess I don't remember if you also did. We played like one season pretty seriously, Breach.
Yep, I played a crap ton of Breach. I played hardcore as well. I was with you guys.
Yeah. And then like afterwards, it's like, man, I don't want to do all this again.
Yep.
You know.
And PoE, like, the game is amazing, and like the company and like everything. Like Chris Wilson is just like so articulate about like his designs, like all these things are so well done. But like, I just don't want to play Act 1 through 10.
I agree. I seriously hope they address that in PoE 2. Aside, I don't know if you guys watched the reveal. I'm assuming you have, but it's like 8 acts now, I think, or 7 acts. I think it's 7 acts, so it's smaller. I think they need to do something else. Personally, I know we're off topic at a huge point, but
no, that's fine.
You're gonna boot it up, and it's gonna be Act 1, and then Act 2, and then Act it's like
it'll be cool. It'll be cool for the first couple times because obviously it's a brand new story. But yeah, if they don't do something to address that, like the amount of time I put into the game, like I should just be able to blow through this and get to the fun stuff, quote unquote, as soon as possible. I'm with you guys on that, 100%.
But
we tried to play the. Well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say we tried to play the Plant League. What was it called? Harvest. Yeah, and then we got up to like Act 3, and it's like, man.
Yeah.
It was like Act 2. I don't even know if we finished Act 2.
Dude, that was me with Synthesis. I was like, screw this. I'm out, dude. It did not hook me right away.
We were on Brutus and your mouse died.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I'm not playing again. I'm out.
My mouse ran out of batteries. And
I'm done.
It's like, man, it was really hard to get.
I'm done. Apparently, the Steam achievements, only like 70% of the players have killed Brutus. I'm like, come on. I mean, I know it's a free-to-play game, so the statistics are off, but I was like, holy crap. It just puts it in perspective.
About, I guess, 2 notes. There's probably a reason they have you do that. Again, like to go back to that thing, it's like there's a reason that they have you play all the acts.
Sure.
Like, you know, we can sit here and talk about how it's like not good all we want, but there's a reason for it. The other thing is that initially when Duncan implemented Eclipse, every time you died,
you went down?
They would go down.
Oh, I slammed my deck. Can you guys hear me, by the way? Is it good? Hello? Oh, shoot. No! Hold on.
The camera started like glitching out.
Oh, did we get it? Hello?
Yeah, you're back.
All right. Whenever I slam my desk, my mixer, the power cord comes out, so everything freezes. It wasn't even a hard slam. Shoot. I didn't mean to cut you off. My apologies. Go off with what?
I don't know. What was I even saying?
I don't know.
It would every time you lost an Eclipse run, it would minus
go down.
But then it felt really bad to lose, and then also have to do one that you've already done. So that's what reminded me of the PoE thing. It's like you've already done 2. You don't need to do 2 again. You've done it. So like we just took that.
Like
out.
prove it, yeah. So that didn't last.
Yeah.
It lasted until the first playthrough. like first place.
The first time, and you died, and you're like, okay, all right.
Second, I'm gonna not play anymore.
So that's interesting to hear that you guys you literally hardcore the league, but also like played the games a crap ton, Diablo 3 and what other games in your time. And yet Risk of Rain 2, it clearly has influences like that, but it's still like a fun party game, like Mario Party or, like Fall Guys or something like that. I think a lot of people could classify this game in the same vein, where it's something that you pick up and you play for maybe like an hour a week kind of thing, but it's still super freaking fun, and you still want to come back to do it next week, So I think it's interesting that you guys, the games that when you play the games, you're super into them, you're super hardcore, and yet this appeals to such a wide audience, a casual audience even.
Yeah, we call it a chat room sometimes. It's just like an interactive chat room.
Yeah.
Like just talking to your friends, you have something to do.
Yeah.
Right? I would say it's not because we don't want to make games like that. It's just hard. And we don't have the team size for that.
So what I'm hearing is once you do have the team size for that.
Maybe, like that's the ultimate goal.
That's so exciting to hear. Oh my gosh. That's seriously so exciting to hear. Because a lot of people, when it comes down to it, of course, if you look on Reddit or Discord or wherever, you're always going to have the people that are, the super elitist type that don't take any casual, but at the same time, there's some merit to that. The people that are truly invested in your game, those are the kind of people that are going to play 10 hours a day, 12 hours, hopefully not 12 hours, that's a lot of time. But you know what I'm saying, right? Those people, clearly, they have some kind of affinity for the game. And I'm glad that you guys that's ultimately the kind of game that you want to decide. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but, in some vein, you like that inspiration. I think that's really cool.
I think it makes a lot of we read all the emails and all this stuff, and there's been people who type up pages and pages of feedback, and it starts kind of negative, and then they're like, oh, you can fix this, you can tweak this, and we read it all and reply and say those are good ideas and the usual stuff.
Yeah.
Have a conversation with them, and then by the end they're like, thank you so much for reading this. This is my favorite game. I only typed all that stuff because I was super passionate about it. We know we're people who kind of like a game aren't gonna look up our email.
Oh yeah.
Spend hours typing up their feedback, all of it, even if it's negative, they call us whatever. It's you're only doing that because you care. So you try to filter all of that through a grain of happiness and they're excited,
right.
Want to see it grow. So there's even the negative emails or negative comments. It's cool. We like to see it. So
yeah, that's such a good trait to have, honestly, and that's part of the reason why. There's many reasons why, but you guys are so well respected and loved by the community. You guys clearly they can notice that without you guys saying it. They just know that about you, that you clearly care about the feedback and the transparency. I'm assuming Hopoo Duncan, Hopoo, you write the dev thoughts, right? That's you writing the dev thoughts. So people can just tell if you read any dev thought, you're like, okay, these guys get it. These guys care about their game, but they also understand that there's other people that care about it maybe even a little more, and they have valid concerns that are brought up. So I think it's really refreshing, because not a lot of developers nowadays, especially not a lot of developers, number one, probably even think that way, but number two, are willing to talk about it openly. They're that's why there's the QA, not QA, sorry, the play, not Bex from Grinding Gear Games. Bex, what is her role? The community a community person. That's why they do that, right? Because they don't want to do that. They're like, I don't want to talk to the player base. Get that guy out of here.
I think that's been a strong suit of ours since even Risk 1. We've always tried to be transparent with people. It's we're doing this for this reason. We're doing this for this reason. And there's been a lot of things where that's been really good for us, is we've admired other game developers who have done that. It's oh, that makes a lot more sense now that you say it, instead of just here's our choice, agree with it kind of thing. So yeah. I think we've always liked the Diablo 4 dev blogs that they've been putting out.
Yeah,
we're
cool.
Super excited to read that, because we love the game, and it's they're talking about how they position armor and not clipping, and it's most people don't care about that, but for someone who's invested and interested in the game, it's the coolest thing ever. So we want to kind of mirror that feeling of oh, this is out. The blog post is it's just words, but it's
yeah. Dude, for me, that was the Halo 3, the making of Halo 3. Marty O'Donnell, I don't know if you guys know, but Marty O'Donnell has a YouTube channel, and it's relatively new, I think, and he uploaded the entire series. Dude, that is the most insane stuff to watch. It's so insane to see their process, their mindset, and the fact that they had that, though, a massive company. I know we're getting off topic again. It's a tangent, but that's incredible. That's what people aspire to be. I don't know if you guys have any influence from that. You said in the beginning of the video, Halo was an influence, but...
I remember seeing that growing up. Yeah, like there was even shots where it's like not complete. There's like white boxes or like kind of like black and white. I remember there's like a shot of like a brute, and like everything's like untextured. And I remember thinking, oh, it's so cool.
Yeah.
That I get to see this thing that's kind of like secret.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Like seeing stuff in creation. So I do remember a lot, all those videos of specifically Halo 3. I do remember.
Yeah. So cool. Well, I don't have any like other specific questions here. I mean, I don't know how much time you guys have. If you have to clock out.
We got all day, man.
Clock out. Oh, hell yeah, it did. No, 3 hours
shit, so.
coming in. All right, so I'll ask about the next expansions. What is your goal with expansions? Because you stated that the last content update is for players and for you guys. You want to fix all this stuff. You want to add not everything again to put words in your mouth, but do what you think the game should have had if it were not in early access with the time. So expansions. What is your goal with the expansions? There, you said themes and blah blah blah, but what is like the goal with the expansions?
So, okay, I would say there's two things, right? There's like the business goals, and then there's like the design goals, right? So like the goals for the business is that these expansions allow us to hire people who are specifically on for Risk 2, and like it makes sense, right? Like they bring in money, and the expansion sell, and it helps pay for these people. We also really want to hire people for future projects, but it's challenging because that project doesn't exist. Right. It's just Risk 2 right now. There's nothing else like in the works.
Yeah.
So like it would be really hard to hire a bunch of people and also make a new project at the same time. So like from our business side, if our goal really is to make these bigger games, we need to somehow train people onto it. And Risk 2, with the way it's set up, where content can kind of be inserted, it is a really good grounds for that. Now, for the design, the expansion thing it was both me, Paul, and Jeff. We were just kind of chatting about, like, how do we want to do, like, DLC? And it was mostly just, like, we're kind of tired of doing content updates, right? And we just want it to be something that's exciting.
Yep.
We talked a lot about Terraria's, like, 1 year, like 1.3, 1.4, as being, like, something that's really big. I'm not going to say it's necessarily that big, but like it's cool because it's like I love Terraria, and that would be a reason. Not me, I actually haven't played it, but as a person who loves Terraria, that's like a good enough reason to actually go back and play.
Wait, you haven't played Terraria at all?
I haven't played Terraria. No.
Dude, okay, another tangent real quick. When I was in the same boat, I think I started playing it in 2018 or something. The game's been out since 2011, I think. You have to, seriously. Because I thought it was just a 2D Minecraft. There's no depth to it. Dude, it is all about the loot. It's literally all about the loot and the progression. That's it. So obviously from an RPG fanatic, dude, you have to, seriously.
I've watched Quinn play it from start to almost finish. So like, what's the point?
Oh, you got to, man.
Maybe. But
so that was the inspiration for the expansion, the long-term content where it simmers for a while. You can build the hype slowly, but it gives you all the time in the world, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just didn't want a timeline of like every 3 months we're going to do this.
Yeah.
I also think it's more fun from a player standpoint if more people are playing and talking about something at the same time. And so that's like the reason why we even had content updates in the first place. It's like, because a lot of people are like, why don't you just do like a couple items every week? Because like, I mean, presumably that's what we're doing internally, right? We're kind of progressing.
Sure.
And the reason why we're packaging it, we're naming it, we have little trailers for it, is so it's like kind of more fun. So like it's like an event.
Yeah.
Everyone's in the Discord for the day. Everyone sort of is doing this thing together or whatever.
Have you guys joined one of those calls, by the way, the day of the update?
I've never.
Oh man, I went.
I once backed out, so it's like screaming, right?
It's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare. Oh man. Okay, cool. So that's cool. So it's the long term. You let it simmer, let it ride. Everyone knows it's coming, but it's just going to be even better. I like that approach. I do like that approach. I think it'll be healthier for the game overall.
The game also. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It helps a lot. I think we mentioned it in the dev thoughts, but like the design of certain things is like more free flowing when we're not
crunched.
kind of on a time crunch or a time deadline of like, we want to make this idea. We don't have time. Maybe later. It's like kind of a reoccurring theme that we had during early access. So I think a lot of that will be like, we've got the time. If we do this weird idea and it takes like 4 months and then it like changes the game, like maybe that's really cool. It's kind of like not risky development, but it's more like just what would we want to see in a game like this. So it's a little bit more like nebulous, or like unguided content, which could lead to be like pretty fun for people.
So one thing, and I'm not trying to have a gotcha question at all here, but this pertains to the. I have to apologize, Hopoo, specifically because I reached out. I have to apologize for the way that, because I was purely emotional after I watched the stream and I read the depth thoughts. I was like, oh crap, no, it's happening, not the Hopoo. So I have to apologize for that. But I put out a video afterwards and I got my thoughts a lot more coherently out. But it's still a valid point to raise that. So say that this expansion is chugging along, it's looking good, but you're like 4 or 5 months out, and Gearbox wants to add in something right now. I'm not saying this could be a thing, or sorry, this is going to be a thing, but it theoretically, like we have no idea. No one has any idea because it's in the future. We have no idea. Would you be okay with stuff like microtransactions, or like buy to pay, or pay to get a certain skin, or something small like that, which it seems insignificant at first, but I'm sure you guys have seen plenty of games that over time have just been microtransactions out the butt, like Destiny 2. Destiny 2 is a great example of that. Are you against that? Is that something that you're like, okay, if it happens, it happens? Who knows? Or what is your stance specifically on something like that?
So I would say like our relationship with Gearbox wouldn't allow that. Their sort of goal with publishing is to be the most developer-friendly publisher in the world. That is like their slogan. And so they have never affected any piece of content for the game. So they've never been like, change this or add this. I don't think they even have the legal right to do something without our approval. I think. Don't quote me on it. I think so. But like they would, it's just not how it works. Yeah. They wouldn't be like, you have to do this. And we're like, okay, I guess.
So not like a specific thing, but what about a more a broader spectrum? So you have to meet a certain. Is there like a quota that you have to hit with them in terms of sell? There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. You have no correlation with anything like that.
We did that pretty early on, and that was kind of like that initial email thread that we had with them was like, this is how we want to do things. This is how we've always done things. We don't want like this kind of like overlord kind of publisher telling us like what to do or what to make, or like make another character with, a human face because more people play it. Like that's just like never been like a thought that I think early on we were pretty like firm of like, we want to make the game how we want to make it and we want you to publish it. We don't want those really lines to kind of cross. I don't think they've ever given us even like in the last 2 years, or like since we've talked to them, like, hey, you should change this or tweak this.
There's one thing. The soda log.
The energy drink? What about it?
Yeah, it mentioned like PCP or something in there.
Hey, we're going to have to bump you up to a rated M for the drug references.
That's what it was. In like Australia, they weren't sure if we could ever sell.
Wow.
In Australia, if we left the log as it was. So they were like, hey,
just letting you know. Yeah.
I think it might be still in there.
That's really cool. Hey, screw Australia. We don't need those people anyway. I'm kidding.
That and like some like legal stuff, right? They mentioned like the medkit used to be red and white, and they were like, hey, like you should probably change it to green because that's like copyrighted by the Red Cross.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they got your back. That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. Like I said, I'm not trying to do a gotcha or anything. I just honestly wanted more insight in the relationship. That was it.
And I think it's fun for me to talk about too because I think they actually did do a really good job, and in some ways, I feel like. People are always kind of treating us like battered housewives or something. It's okay, guys. I know Gearbox did this or something, and we have a really good relationship with Gearbox.
Good.
So to tie it back into your initial thing, I don't think the players want like a bunch of little skins and stuff. So we have no interest in selling skins, and Gearbox definitely wouldn't ever make us do that.
Gotcha.
They want what's best for the game as well.
Yeah, and I think that kind of, obviously this all ties to kind of like the announcement of like Stadia and certain things like that. And I might not articulate this in the best way, but
try your best.
Yeah,
BR's on the line right here. I can literally cut any of this out. Don't worry.
No, it's fine. I think that like kind of like Duncan mentioned, like on that day that we announced that, people were like, oh, that's like all Gearbox. That's like, they just want like this like technology and like whatever. And we were reading that, we're kind of like, that's a weird way to take it, but the way that happened is Gearbox was like, hey, there's like a opportunity for this thing, and it, like this kind of like idea. What does that sound like to you guys? And we're like, that sounds pretty sweet. I think kind of the deal that we made like has a much longer lasting impact than anyone kind of like realized. Like it was like there's so many factors that go into it that's like beneficial for the game as a whole. And a lot of the details weren't like, like how long is the map exclusive for? Is it forever? Is it like only for these guys? There's always like kind of questions that happened. And like we addressed those, and like Duncan went into like a QA in the Discord, and like all these things, and like we wanted to like make the most sense for people, but like the benefits of these things like infinitely outweighed like any of that kind of like uneasiness or like how do we answer this to like the public, or like how do all that stuff is like what we talk about like on a daily basis of like, do we want like does this feel right for us? Does this make sense like for like financial reasons? Does this make sense for like if our goal is like long-term support of Risk of Rain 2 and this is directly in line with that, then like it makes a lot of it like a lot easier. So I think that there's a lot of factors that went into that, and I think like overall as a game it's like a huge bonus for the game. So just like it was like a pretty simple, easy choice for us to make. It wasn't like a Gearbox choice or like a a forced thing. It was just like this makes the most sense with our goals.
Gotcha.
So
in terms of like long-term support.
Yeah, and that's exactly what people want to hear. Honestly, that's all I want to hear. This the complete you guys have always been insanely transparent, which is another one of the traits people value highly. But I mean, that's it. As long as you're transparent with us, as long as you tell us what's going on. I mean, like you mentioned many times throughout this thing, like there's always a reason why people do stuff. Specifically with game design, there's always a reason why they make the choices. So that's all we want. We just want a reason. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's easier also for us to be transparent about like all of our stuff. The only reason why the Stadia one's a little tricky is because it involves multiple parties.
Yeah, like, I want to hit on that real quick. So that it's a timed exclusive. Is it 30 days? I've seen the number 30 days.
I'm pretty sure it's 30 days. So like
30 weeks, dude. It's 30 weeks. I
haven't read the contract, so maybe it's like 31 days or something. I don't know, but like as far as I'm aware, it is 30 days. Yes.
Okay, so that was. Again, I'm not trying to get a gotcha or anything, but that was more of an outside influenced decision than you guys were like, hell yeah, they give Stadia the stage for 30 days, right?
That was part of the like, they offered us support and they get the 30 days on the map.
Gotcha. Yeah, that would make the most sense, obviously. Yeah, they're like, hey, we could put your game on there.
And I think the thing I was trying to communicate a little bit too, and maybe I did poorly there, was that like this was not a map that was originally going to be in the game at all. As in, it's like a third stage 4. This was not something we took out of the game. It was not done.
Right.
1.0 hit. And so, like, this was just kind of a little bonus thing. And so, like, all players as a whole will get a bonus map, and I hope that turns out well. I think I also want to highlight that people's like initial gut reactions are valid. In that, like, if you made like a collection of headlines you never want to see in a game you love, right? It's like DLC, paid, timed exclusive. Right?
Yeah.
And so like, I think it's totally fair, right? And I don't want to invalidate that. I just think that this is going to be good for all players.
100%.
In that more players will play Risk 2, and the existing players will get kind of a free bonus map for funsies.
Yeah. I agree. Like, dude, I saw, I hopped in the official Discord, you guys' Discord, for a little bit, and I saw one guy ping you and specifically say, dude, I just watched Woolie's recent video, said Gearbox has a gun pointed to your head. I was like, no, what? I did not say that. How did you take that from the video, dude? Come on.
Right. And they're passionate too, right?
Yeah,
so,
sure.
I don't blame any of these people. I actually forgot that announcement was happening at all. So, like, I was at the gym. And I just came back and I just hopped on my computer and I see all these little like red notifications. I'm like, wait, what's going on again?
Oh,
and like,
no.
Paul had to go do something at the time. So like,
I no.
blanked.
Holy crap.
Announcement that was being made. So yeah.
Man.
But yeah, hopefully that answers your initial question, which was like, Gearbox suggested like microtransactions. Like, first, they wouldn't. Secondly, I don't like microtransactions. So I mean, like, it doesn't sound like a fun time. So
cool. So now we know. If microtransactions do start creeping into Risk of Rain 2, you guys have been taken over. Yeah, or you've been taken over.
That's true. Yeah. It's more likely that we're like, this is gonna be so cool, and then apparently we're wrong. Or something.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Here's a question. Regarding Eclipse, because you like us sweaty nerds. Can we get like one? Nightfalls from Destiny. You know how you complete a night? You used to complete a nightfall, you get the blue flame. Something very simple. Something very, very simple. I think that would be badass as an Eclipse reward. Only for level 8. Complete, or the whole thing. Theoretically, if there's more levels, just the end of Eclipse, you get some like small thing. That's it.
All
That
40
was the, yeah, that's true. That was the initial goal for Prismatic Trials.
Really?
Was if you were in the top 10%, you would have like a effect. The thing is, it's full of cheaters, right? And like, just to make it not do that would require everything to be server side.
Sure.
And it's too late in development to do that.
Gotcha.
It would affect too much. And so like we never could do that. So it's similar, right? Like we had that idea.
Yeah.
Of like your name is purple or something if you were top 10% in Eclipse that week. Or not Eclipse,
Prismatic Trials. So could that be a possibility for Eclipse, something like that? Or do you guys purely want Eclipse to be just a fun thing? If you're into this kind of stuff, go for it. Otherwise, don't touch it.
I think a reward would be cool. I think at least there should be some sort of like marker if you do Eclipse 8, because currently there's nothing that proves you did Eclipse 8 at all.
Gotcha.
The only thing I want to avoid is the fact that when we added unlockables behind Monsoon, it made Monsoon have to be good.
Yep.
As in kind of fair.
Yep.
And I don't think Eclipse is fair. And so that's my only hesitation is
I see what you're saying. Okay.
you kind of have an expectation that it's like a fair thing if there's something hidden behind it. But like for some characters, like for Acrid, it kind of sucks to do Eclipse 8 or something.
Yeah.
And I never want to balance characters around Eclipse 8.
Did you mean Rex, by the way? Did you mean Rex when you said Acrid?
I meant Acrid. Croco, the dog.
Wait, Acrid's like busted on Eclipse 8. I don't understand.
Is he?
Yeah, he's insanely busted. Yeah, you literally just poison once and you run around. That's it. You're
it's
done.
because you play ranged Acrid. I play melee.
Oh my! We got a melee. These are the buffs. This is the reason for the buffs.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, so how about Rex? Actually, speaking to this, Rex, the permanent damage on Eclipse 8, is that intentional?
Does he still have that?
Yeah, you lose HP on Eclipse 8 with Rex if you use your stuff.
That was also one of those borderline things.
Okay.
I thought we fixed that in the last update, but maybe that was like in the list of like people like ping this as a thing.
Yeah.
I think it's okay, but like honestly, that's kind of borderline in terms of like not fun. That's not like fun, memorable thing. It's more like it's a very specific interaction that's unfair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say I would want to fix that.
Cool.
I would probably not fix that immediately or something.
Sure. Yeah, that's not a super. Yeah, who's on Eclipse and on Rex right now? Like two people.
Right.
But I do think I agree with like the little border around like when you're choosing a character.
Pink or something.
Like like filling it out, like the progression side of that thing is pretty cool. But it'd be tough to give like
skin,
footsteps,
something.
Or, that kind of stuff is tough. But it's something that I love doing in PoE, like getting the 40 seasonal whatever
challenges. Yep.
So that was fun, and it's like, how do we balance it and then like have to make sure everything's fair? It's kind of tough. So it's a little bit of a trade-off.
Cool. And I realized that I'm asking all these questions, and Eclipse was literally this thing you implemented last minute to just have some extra, fun stuff. So are you planning on fleshing it out more with the coming content, or not the content update, because that's just stuff you're missing, but the expansions, for example? Is that a plan to flesh out Eclipse, or are you just going to kind of leave it as maybe add some additional levels here and there? But
I would say it depends if players like it.
I'm gonna say I love Eclipse. I it's so much better than the usual runs, only because I've played the usual runs for 1,200 hours. I have a crap ton of hours. But for someone that plays the game a butt ton, yes, Eclipse is absolutely amazing.
I think
if there's like something that's like a cool modifier that we think of, it's like, oh, that'd be so good. Then obviously we'll put it in. Like that's how most of our development goes. It's like, oh, that's perfect. We'll just do that.
Okay.
Yeah, the Eclipse modifiers are still very specifically designed to not be anti-fun, as in there's no movement speed penalties, there's no damage penalties.
That was the biggest thing. I'm not gonna lie. As soon as I saw that in the patch launch, I was like, please don't have a movement speed modifier. I can't take it.
Right. So like, or damage or like any of that kind of stuff, because it's just like, kind of not fun. But it is also different from artifacts, which is like purely kind of like meme. So it would be like, if we had cool ideas, I think a good DLC would have something for all players. I don't know, just like thinking out loud, the logistics of, okay, if there was like up to Eclipse 15 or something, then that means we could probably never do like past that, because then if you got the DLC for like Eclipse 20, you would have to have that one in the middle or something.
Sure.
I think in general it's cool. It is. I think at a certain point it may just become impossible. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Like,
who knows?
A lot of the money modifier used to be a lot worse. Is 50%.
Oh, yeah, that would be terrible. Holy crap.
That's why it's so low. It's like 20%.
Yeah.
Because that's like on the fringe there of like unfun penalties.
Sure.
Like move speed or something.
Yeah.
The hope was like, like maybe I think a little bit about Gore's Tome. I think a little bit about Blood Shrines or something.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it was, everything fell right into place. It was perfect. Not to say there's no issues with it, but I mean,
sure, yeah.
I think you did a perfect job with the modifiers. They all feel impactful and yet still fair at the same time. Like you feel the impact, but there's still, you can work around them. It requires that choice. And I think this is the last point on Eclipse for me personally. And this, you guys can talk about it more if you want. It's so much fun because it requires you to think about the run. You can't just go total brain dead mode, just zone in, just loot chest, kill the boss, go on. You can't do that. You straight up can't do that on Eclipse. So I think that's the huge amount of the appeal.
It also switches like to go off that point, it switches like the tiers of head stompers.
Priorities.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. It's like, this item in Eclipse is amazing.
Yep.
At a certain level, or this item is like less so. Certain things like that. That it's cool. Like switches up the kind of the routine of playing monsters.
Happiest mask is still happiest mask. Unfortunately, hate to break it.
It's actually worse. Sadly,
Yeah,
the first
it is.
modifier. It's like half duration. I'm like, damn. That wasn't intended.
Worse.
That wasn't intended.
Oh,
but
man.
it does work as intended, I guess. But that was
Yes.
like an unintentional consequence. Was the
Yeah.
minion items, which already suffered, are even worse.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Here's a thought about, another poor phrasing. The loot pools. Are you ever concerned about oversaturation? Are you concerned about the relative balance between the certain items? Because obviously you have to have bad items to make the good items actually worth something. So what's your general thought process when you're thinking of adding new stuff?
So that's part of our 1.0 update, is that we felt like we were starting to hit numbers where there's a limited number of base items or base stats. So as we design more and more, they're going to get a little bit more convoluted.
Yep.
That's why we did only lunar and boss and equipment, where you have a little bit more choice. Boss not choice, but it's just fun.
Yep.
And it's not part of the same pool as the green items, right?
Yeah.
That's another thing for bigger updates, is that because each update we had like 7 items or something. I don't know the numbers.
Yeah, it was like 7 to 10, something like that.
And so like we're at like 120 something. And so each time we add 7, it becomes less and less likely to show up than the next 7, right? If at like 200 items or something, then
Yep.
adding another 7 would become much less likely to show up.
Yep.
So that's another valid reason for doing a big update. It is something that I think we can work around in terms of like, if we had, this is just thinking out loud, if we had DLC, we can have like item pools or something, where maybe this item only comes from a specific chest that you get with this DLC or something, so it doesn't like fuck up the main pool. So I think that's part of the consideration, is like if we're adding items, we have to make sure we're not adding like really kind of weird ones. I think it's fun to still have chase items and the probability that you actually get one.
Yeah.
If there's too many, it's no longer like, I hope I get a ukulele, it's just like random.
Yeah.
And right now it's at a number where you can actually pursue something and probably get it. So that's that part. I don't know if I actually replied properly to your question.
No, that makes total sense. You're worried about the oversaturation just because now all of a sudden you have so many more options to, the potential loot to get. Yeah, totally.
And I think in terms of item balance, tier 2s have always been a bit of a graveyard in Risk 1 and 2. In terms of like, it's too weird to be tier 1. It's too bad to be tier 3. Or I guess that's what we call it internally, the white, green, red, tier 1, 2, 3.
Gotcha.
So I guess we'll put it in tier 2, And there's the only one that I would say is like actually should be changed is the squid polyp. Just because like
make it a red, do it.
Yeah, maybe that's the solution, right? No. That's because like the scrapper was a great tool for us internally to be like, is there items you scrap 100% of the time, right? And if so, that's bad.
Yeah.
And so like the war banner was one for that.
Yep.
And like still like at a certain point in the game, yeah, you scrap it 100% of the time. But like if I got stage 1, maybe I'd actually keep it.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yep.
For the first few boss fights. Yep. And so I think any item that is like, yes, this is literally worthless is bad. I had a prediction on 1.0 release that everyone was going to say the game is way harder.
Wow.
Even though I think it's identical. I don't think that the 10% scaling really made that big of a difference.
Yeah, no.
Because I think everyone is going to scrap all these items that were actually doing a lot.
Yep.
And like, I can't confirm that was the reason, but I remember like a lot of people like, oh, this seems like way harder.
Way harder, yeah.
Right? And they had like 12 scrap in their inventory.
The first day of watching you play 1.0 update, it was like you like died. You were trying to get like the captain unlock.
Yeah.
Like, there was like death after death of like 12 scrap, 8 scrap. It's like, oh man, it's like really tough. And I was like, no, it's 30 items you're supposed to have. So it was like kind of like this like kind of gratifying moment of like, if you have no items, you're gonna die. And people didn't like really pick that up for like the first like week. So,
yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And I think most items are not 100% scrap no matter what. Outside of, I cannot imagine, unless it's literally the first item you pick up, I don't know like how often you'd really want to use the squid polyp. Like it may
think about
maybe it helps with the first TP or something. I don't know.
Yeah, pretty limited.
Squid polyps. All right, here's the strat. You
Okay.
stack squid polyps, and you stack your engineer.
Okay.
You've got the turrets.
All right. Yeah.
You stack the interstellar desk plant.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And every time you run around, you're killing things. There's like this huge healing rings, and it keeps all the squids alive.
Dude, no way. Why did I think of that? Holy crap.
That's thing I've been doing that's like really fun. Is like
that's insane, dude. Holy crap.
2 worst items.
The forget-me-not is decent for that, for stacking desk plants. Yeah.
Don't you mean to forgive me, please?
Yeah, forgive me, please. Yes, yeah, sorry. I did have one polyp stacking run. I tried before. Yeah. And I was like, this might be sick. And then it wasn't sick. It was bad. So, like,
dude, I had someone legitimately try to defend Pog. I was like, dude, I played Command. I stacked Pog Lips on Drizzle. It was the best thing I've ever experienced. I was like, hey.
It's like, okay.
Yeah. Right? The attack speed gets funny. It gets pretty funny, but
it's really fast.
Oh, man.
Like, the whole map is like...
Yeah.
Just black tar shooting out everywhere. I mean, I don't have anything else. I don't have anything else, dude. You guys are awesome. You guys are legit awesome. I mean, you guys are a huge inspiration to a lot of people. For me in particular, you guys are you at 26, 27, around that age, high 20s, by the way, mid 20s. Let's call it mid 20s. Well, hey, I don't want to keep you guys any longer. You know, you guys got to stay alive and not get sick from bonfire. What are they called? Forest fire. What do you call them?
Yeah. Wildfires.
Wildfires. Thank you. That's I didn't know that was happening. You said past 2 days this started happening.
Yeah, the entire West Coast is like.
Oh, jeez. That is wow.
We're just playing games though, so it's not,
It's not that bad. Oh yeah. How is that? I'm gonna stop the recording now because this doesn't happen.